may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey, Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And here, there, fuck. There's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Where Mark was struggling on that one, ladies and gentlemen, because we have a packed house for this review. And the video boxes got moved around on him, and he could not actually point at me anymore. And you could see the light die behind his eyes.
When I was a kid, we did a field trip where we got to see like how a TV station worked, and we got to do like the weather guy thing. And they let me stand up there. I could not figure out left, right, up, down. Like it took me so long to figure out what was happening. They were like, "Please just sit down. You're a moron." And I'm almost 50. Nothing has changed.
3 cheers to the American education system.
Hip hip.
Hooray.
I was about to say something very unpleasant there about the education system at the end of that hip hip, but I'm trying to watch my language these days, so there will be none of that. This episode.
Well, it's like that just takes all the fun out of the review, man.
Wait, you don't curse normally until I've pushed you to the point of no return. So like, how much more are you trying to watch your language?
I am trying to push that particular point of no return further and further away.
Oh, good for
That's
you.
how this works.
Yeah, you still do shows with Mark.
I've done shows with many people, Jason.
Please introduce the rest of the panel before 11 o'clock tonight. Thanks.
All right. Before 11 o'clock on your coast. I'm deliberately screwing this up. All right. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the menu. Because we were looking for material, and this one kind of struck a lot of our interests, and we got a bunch of people here to talk about it. First up, you've heard him briefly here. He was the last one to join this particular call. I imagine he will be the Nicholas Hoult of this particular ensemble cast. Jason Teasley, how you doing?
Doing well. Ready to enjoy 90% of this podcast like I did the movie.
And if we get that ratio, we'll all be doing pretty good. Also back with us from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, we have Alexis Hejna, because she doesn't miss horror movies as a general rule, and, well, Ralph Fiennes.
Whoever said I was... Ralph Fiennes is an amazing actor, but I've never openly said, oh, hell yes, Ralph Fiennes.
I assume.
I think he's casting you as Ralph Fiennes.
No. Tempting it. No, Alexis is going to be the one who survives. Like, she'd wind up being the Anya Taylor-Joy thing. Like, you know what? I'm going to find some weird little way to get out of this, and I will survive.
I was going to say, we all know that Mark is freaking Ralph Fiennes.
He's
going to kill us all.
Mark's not organized enough to be Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah.
That is the worst thing you have ever said to me. I am really insulted.
I know.
He would have to put it on his schedule. It would have to be
Jesus
scheduled.
fucking Christ. How dare you, sir? How dare you? Introduce Dorian so that I can interrupt you and show you what an insult that is.
I've seen your schedule, Mark. You do see me on it.
Jesus Christ.
And back with us for the first time since our discussion
I have
of
a color-coded
Candyman.
schedule. What do you mean I'm not organized?
You do not run a tight ship.
For God's sake.
Back with us
You
for the first
people are
time
a bunch
since
of
our
cats, and I'm
discussion
not-
of Candyman. Would you let me finish?
No.
How did you turn into the petulant one in this relationship all of a sudden?
We go back and forth.
Yeah, that's true. So joining us for the first time since our roundtable discussion of Candyman, we have Dorian Price back with us. Dorian, welcome to the
Hello.
Insanity.
Good to be back.
Is it? All right. So we just a point of order. We back when I was the one making the schedule and people weren't trying to take my power from me. We were going to do She Said because I thought we didn't get to do Bombshell last year, and I thought, oh, here's another opportunity to do a movie like that. It'll be, an Oscar contender. It'll be about the the woke movement, Me Too, and all of that. More Me Too than woke, but it was about the Harvey Weinstein thing. I thought, okay, this would be, once we decided to just go weekly and just do whatever the movie of the week was, I thought, okay, this will be something for me and Robert to really bite into. And then they announced the menu was opening the same weekend, and at that point, everyone was like, "Nope, we're doing this instead," and shoved me into a locker. Like, oh well, I can't go against the will of council, so that's literally why we're doing this. But so the menu, for those that don't know, and they're just kind of tuning in because one of us is a friend of yours and you wanted to see us on the TV. The menu is a 2022 American Black comedy horror film directed by Mark Mylod, written by Seth Reiss and Will Tracy, and produced by Adam McKay of Don't Look Up fame, Betsy, Koch, and Will Ferrell of Elf fame. The film features an ensemble cast that includes Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, all 10 pounds of her, Nicholas Hoult, Chau, Janet McTeer, Reed Birney, Judith Light, from those of you who might remember Who's the Boss, and John Leguizamo. The menu had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival September 10th and was released in the United States this past weekend by Fox Searchlight, now owned by Disney, your lord and your overlord. The film received largely positive reviews from critics who praised its screenplay and cast performances. So, all right, let's, since we do have a large panel here, Robert, give us the 5 minutes or less skinny on this black horror comedy meditation on the disillusionment of the restaurant industry.
It's not the restaurant industry. I'll get to that. I'll save that for the craft. It's a bad setup. For the record, I laughed harder at this than anything I have this year, save maybe Minions. This was nice. Right up my alley. Loved this as far as the comedy.
I'm glad it made you happy.
It really did for about 5 minutes. It was nice. So we primarily follow Anya Taylor-Joy's character, who has been invited to be the date for Nicholas Hoult, which is just never a good thing, to dine at an exclusive restaurant on a private island called Hawthorne. The rest of our ensemble cast are mostly other guests. They all kind of meet each other.
Just keep going.
They meet each other on the boat, and they take the trip over. They get a tour of the island. They are escorted into the restaurant, where we introduced to our primary antagonist, the character played by Ralph Fiennes, who is the appropriate caricature of every high-end chef you will ever meet. They're all pretty much like this.
So batshit insane.
Oh, yeah. And he begins serving his rather eccentric course of meals to them for the evening. And as this goes on, things get more and more sinister until one of the sous chefs, burdened by his own inadequacy, and boy did I feel this, commits suicide.
Oh, Robert. Keep going.
Save it. Hey, no one else is interrupting me. You did it this time.
I said keep going, but yikes, dude.
This is all revealed to be an elaborate piece of essentially performance and food art by the chef, who has lost his passion for everything that he's done. He is driven only by his obsession at this point. He sees the people that he has invited to this particular event as the manifestations of all things wrong with everything in his life and all the choices he's ever made, from his mother to the fanboy and everything in between. And slowly, several of them are murdered. There's an escape attempt. There's a lot of very good-looking food, and the fly in the ointment, the monkey in the wrench, the John McClane in Nakatomi Tower is Anya Taylor-Joy, who is a last-minute replacement for Nicholas Hoult's original date. And so hers is kind of, again, the perspective we follow. She's able to survive all of this insanity at the end by breaking into the chef, to Ralph Fiennes' house, and finding a picture of him smiling, and then requesting of him a humble cheeseburger, which takes him back to the moments in his life when cooking brought joy to him and to the people around him. And he decides to allow her to leave. Everyone else is summarily then dressed as s'mores and immolated as the place explodes. And Anya Taylor-Joy enjoys a cheeseburger from a boat while waiting to be rescued by the Coast Guard. And the least believable thing about this movie is Anya Taylor-Joy eating a cheeseburger, because that woman's diet in no way allows for anything approximating that.
All right, Dorian, you and I were talking before the show started. We were actually we were comparing it to other kind of high-end, high think piece horror movies from earlier this year. We were comparing it to X. We were comparing it to Pearl, last year's Candyman, and then just as a side conversation, we were comparing it to Pig, just on the level of dealing with the disillusionment of the restaurant industry. So we'll go over to you first. What spoke to you about this movie?
As a horror writer myself, I always love it when horror movies start to become more intellectual. I've used this metaphor for years, but I think it fits best here. All genres of movies are like food. Sometimes you want, real high-end filet mignon and asparagus. That's movies like Rosemary's Baby, The Shining, The Exorcist, really great films. They're classics. Sometimes you want steak and a baked potato. That's like, Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. I know I'm just going for horror movies, but since this is a horror movie, I figured I'd focus. And then sometimes you want like macaroni and cheese and pizza, and that's like the Leprechaun movies. No offense to the Leprechaun fans out there, but this film I liked for its intellectual level. The fact that even just the concept of it alone in the trailer was unsettling, and not in a like, you're creeped out and kind of leaning away, but you're like laughing, but even at the trailer going, is this a comedy? Like the horror music is in the background, but it seems like I should be laughing, but I'm not. And that's what I found very unsettling about it personally. Also for me personally, my biological father was involved in the food industry for years. Long before I was born, and then after he retired from the fire department. And every time, and I'm not going to do it just so it won't blow anyone's headphones out, but every time Ralph Fiennes would clap and everyone would be like, yes, chef. It's like, I've seen that happen in real life. And even in a situation where there, nobody was dying and it was just, my father running his kitchen, there was still something unsettling about it. So that immediately spoke to me. But the cast itself, Anya Taylor-Joy is proving herself, in my opinion, to be one of the greatest scream queens of my generation. She's everything she's been in so far, I've loved. I want to see Ralph Fiennes, in more horror movies, as more, horror villains. I think he does really well. I mean, I want to see him as original horror villains. I don't want him being like, Mr. Potter, you opened the box, we came, But I mean, Nicholas Holt's always good. He's always a lot of fun. He always brings the best to his role. The movie as a whole, just the situation itself, really grabbed me as a small. It almost felt like a short film that got expanded, but it got expanded perfectly. Whereas a lot of short horror films that are really good do not get expanded that well. And as simple as the concept was for this movie, there was intricacies to it, again, with him being like, I'm done, and this is the best way I can do my performance art. This is the only way I feel alive. Like him cooking and then killing all these people is almost like his drug. Like people that have, that only have one drink a year, and this is his one drink. And, to me, that just really grabbed me overall. And that's my short 5-minute thing in the movie before it gets to be 11 o'clock.
Go ahead, Jason.
I mean, this movie, it was really psychological for me, and it peeled back a lot of layers that you don't see in a lot of modern horror movies, I think, because you see the depth of the character being fleshed out, and when you see it start spiraling down, you really are invested. It kind of reminds me of a movie me and you done, Mark, is Fresh. It has that horror element, but it has that underlying comedy element to it as well, that you don't know how serious to take it.
Right.
But it's like a car crash. You don't want to, you can't look away, and you just want to take everything in. Mm-hmm. And that's where I landed on this movie, because it was such a fresh ideal that a lot of people can gravitate to, and this is basically Gordon Ramsay that went psycho. In my opinion, I mean, that's who I think this was kind of. Ralph Fiennes kind of tailored a lot of his mannerisms and stuff from.
Can I tell you, I kept waiting for him to do the idiot sandwich thing.
Yeah. And I think that's it, because you see the professional side that is so intense, but then you see the humanistic side on the backside of it that wants to come through when he's talking to her and he gives her the decision. You actually see the human side, and you hear his explanation of why he's doing what he's doing, and it kind of gets you even more invested. So I landed on this movie as it was a good, fresh movie that took a concept and ran with it and made it enjoyable, but there are some things that I have issues with. So
all right,
I'll go ahead and pass it back over to you.
Yeah, we'll run back to you on some of the issues. So we're kind of just doing first impressions here. Real quick, I wanted to just deal with something that Dorian said, that I also appreciate horror when it has a perspective. When it's not just gore for gore's sake, it gets kind of boring. You and I were talking before the show started tonight. This had that slow burn Hitchcockian feel. This is taking you on a journey. I think my problem with the movie was also, though, the pacing, because we're slowly getting there, and then things start to happen, and then typically a structure like this, you're in for the roller coaster. Now we've gone all the way up to the top, and then boom, now the train is loose around the track, and you're going at high speed, and the tension is building, and more stuff is happening. That's typically how these things are structured. They stopped a lot to just kind of deal with things. And the film never goes necessarily in that direction. I think in some cases it kind of reminded me of The Black Phone, in that sense, where the tempo of the movie had kind of a start-stop feel to it. In some cases I thought it worked, in others it just made me long for another pass through editing. I'm not entirely sure this thing needed to be 106 minutes long. But I think I think the strongest points to it, Dorian, were the conversations between, and I'm going to say this out loud, and I can already feel like the average audience member struggling with this, because I'm listening to Ralph Fiennes talk about cooking, and I'm listening to him talk to Anya Taylor-Joy and her responding to him. And as an aside, Nicholas Hoult was my favorite character in this entire movie. And I'm going to swing over to you in just a sec, Alexis. But one of the things that I liked about Nicholas Hoult is, boy, have I been there. Like, here's this thing that I appreciate. Here are the finer points of this thing that I'm really excited about and really appreciate. And I want you to appreciate it too. And then you look over and they're just not getting it. Just vapid and vacuous and flat. And you're just like, I'm dealing with a child. It's like, you can't talk to me that way. No, I absolutely can. You are the worst. I'm with you, Nicholas. I'm with you. But just to kind of finish up and pass it over to Alexis, the film for me shines in the talky parts, which I think is going to be a struggle for your general audience member who thought there would be more kills and that there would be more of a ramp up in this. What do you think, Alexis?
Okay, first of all, Mark, repeat after me. Ray Fiennes, not Ralph.
Ham sandwich, I got it. Don't ever correct me.
Okay.
Yes, chef.
Don't encourage him, Dorian.
Hey, how do you think I get asked back?
This guy knows what's up.
For me, I openly said on the network chat, I said, I think this is my favorite movie of 2022, and I stand by it. I'm a foodie.
Hey, one sec. Have you seen X? Have you seen Pearl? And what was the other one we said, Dorian? Pig. Well, that was last year. Have you seen X and have you seen Pearl yet?
Not yet.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, no. I'm a foodie. I'm a professional artist. I'm a pseudo film critic. I'm a horror movie nut. It was like, I felt like this movie was tailor-made for me. And I Loved it. I loved every part of it.
And a Taylor-Joy made. Joke was right there. Had to do it. You said Taylor made and a Taylor-Joy made.
Hang on, let me help him. Let me help him out.
I'll take that.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
boss. I really enjoyed this film. I think that it's been a while since we've seen good black comedy satire in films.
Really?
Satire is
Don't
not
Look Up?
really.
Really? Don't Look Up?
So one in the last year.
It
Yeah.
was last year. It was almost a year ago.
Fresh was good.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I didn't think of Fresh really as a satire, though. Black comedy, yes. Satire, I didn't really see it as a satire. And I loved Fresh. In fact, Jason, going back to what you were saying about comparing it to Fresh, tell me I'm not the only one from the trailer who thought that he was going to be killing and cooking the guests or something.
Oh, yeah.
I actually thought for a second.
yeah.
that's
There's a
what-
close-up shot of the food I thought for sure was a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie really does keep you guessing, though, with that. It is very smartly written. And I think, again, that is something I don't think we see with a lot of satire with black comedy in films. I think it's very hard to write smartly for that kind of a thing nowadays. And a lot of filmmakers tend to go a little too balls to the wall intense and lose focus on what they're really satirizing. It just becomes just too much for them. I think this was really well done. There was a lot of elements of the film that I appreciated. I think my favorite moment was actually when she's looking at the pictures of him, of the chef, and she sees how unhappy he is, and she focuses on the one of him smiling when he was a line chef at a fast food restaurant. The movie doesn't outwardly say, she doesn't go, he looks happy or he's smiling. And then at the end, she doesn't bring that up again when she orders the cheeseburger. It relies on the audience to put two and two together to think like Margot is thinking. And I like that. Again, I think that's very clever writing. And yeah, so much of the food looked really delicious. I genuinely want a cookbook, and I want them to include Tyler's bullshit lamb chops in that cookbook. Because watching that scene made my toes curl more than them getting stabbed in the thigh with the scissors, more than the finger getting cut off. I was like, oh my God, just that killed me.
Real quick. So Robert, do you remember, I think it's Original Sin, the Marvel comic. This is the one where I think the Watcher whispers in Thor's ear, and for years people didn't know what he whispered, and then it turns out later he was like, you're not worth, nobody's worthy, or some shit like that.
That wasn't the Watcher. That was just Fury.
Okay, either way, whatever it was he drops the hammer. He no longer has the power.
He tells him Gore was right.
Yeah,
It's kind of the
essentially.
long and the short of that.
So that bit where Ham Sandwich is whispering in Nicholas Hoult's ear, I totally had that moment of nobody is worthy, and him just like, you're right, and just goes and he fucking hangs himself.
You do know that like the first time they shot that, Ralph Fiennes just told him the dirtiest joke possible, and Nicholas Hoult couldn't keep it together.
He just whips it. He's like, your mom is so fat.
Something like that. Yeah, just to crack him, because that's
right.
Ralph Fiennes will do stuff like that.
But again, there's a lot of
overrated.
No, there's a lot of little details and touches that I think were quite brilliant. I think my favorite one I noticed, the first thing said in the movie is Tyler criticizing Margot because she's smoking. Looking at you, Dorian. Because he says it ruins your palate, and anyone knows that's right. The smoking will diminish your sense of smell and your sense of taste. And the scene where the men attempt to escape and the women are sitting there eating and they're just talking, the food critic is smoking a cigarette while she's eating. Mm-hmm. And that caught me, and I was like, no true food and restaurant critic would smoke for that exact reason. And they talk about how she had led to various restaurants being closed. I thought maybe they're right. Maybe it was an unfair closing. Maybe she did get bad reviews because she's a smoker.
Right.
Again, really, again, they don't bring attention to it. They don't say like, well, you're smoking. You could have just like, no, they allow the audience to figure it out. And I really like that.
Robert, what were some of your first impressions? And then we're going to double back with some of the issues the film has.
All right. Nicholas Hoult should only be allowed to do comedy from now on. I did not know he had that kind of timing.
You've never seen The Great, have you?
Nope.
It's really good.
But get him away from anything serious, he struggles. And get him away from action, he can't really do it. Let the man be funny, he's naturally very funny. So yeah, there was that. It's gonna just be positive. Normally I get to back cleanup and I get to be negative. A couple of things that, again, I love the dark humor in this. I really do. Like when they're trying to like convince one of the chefs to help them escape, and your response is, "No, everyone dying was kind of my pitch for this entire thing, and I'm actually quite proud of it." Like, again, that got a laugh. There's two things in this that I agree with you, Mark, when you say like kind of the acting and the interplay between characters is what carries this. That's where the movie excels. It doesn't lean too hard into the zany, and maybe it could have a little bit more. It doesn't lean hard into the gore. Like there's not a lot of blood here, all things considered, and there could have been. So there's a lot of restraint, whether that's purely artistic or budgetary, who knows. But there's a couple of things in this movie that kind of speak to me on a spiritual level, and whether that says anything good about me or not, I suppose I can leave up to you. Again, the sous chef who just can't stand his own mediocrity, I feel that. Like that really hurts. If you aspire to be great, there's nothing worse than not being great. Like that's the kind of thing that eats at you for your entire existence. To another example of that in film and whatnot, the heavily dramatized version of Mozart's life, that is Amadeus, will suffice for another example of that. But when Ralph Fiennes is talking about, I have devoted my entire life to this endeavor, to the pursuit of perfection that you can never actually obtain, and all I can see is the shambles that every decision in this pursuit is made of my life and the industry to which I have dedicated it. I struggle still, and used to a lot more, with perfectionism. One of the
Can
reasons
I quick jump in on that? We've been doing this podcast since I've been doing it since 2006, and you and I have been working together since 2011, 2012. And I won't name names, but I look at some people who they really don't elevate the art of the conversation at all. They're just kind of kicking the same ball around. Or
I'm on the show, Mark. I am on the show.
Not talking about you, sir. You don't have your own podcast. But I listen to some other people's shows, and it's just chumming the water, or it's very base level, just observational conversation. They're not elevating it in any way. And then here I am, really trying to have that kind of film study and conversation, and the hard work that we put into this is not rewarded, not by comparison to our peers. And so when you were talking about that, I was reflecting back on the film and how that was making me feel. It's like once I sort of separated myself from the film itself and to sort of thinking about parallels, like it really is hard to create art, want to believe in what you're creating, turn around and look at the world that says this isn't what we want, make robots explode, and you're like, ugh. I got to pay bills too, I suppose, but it's hard and it eats at your soul. I just wanted to throw that in there with what you were saying.
It does, and it's worse when you achieve a degree of success. Just very briefly, I suppose I can delve into this. I don't write a whole lot anymore. I used to write a lot more. I got stuck trying to make it right. And it's never right. It's never done. It's never enough. There's always better word choice. There's always better structure. There's always better whatever. And it's to the point now where I struggle to start writing half the time because I look at the blank page and all I can see is the perfect image in my head and the knowledge that no matter what I do, I'm going to screw it up putting it down. It's never going to be right. And it's crippling. It's absolutely crippling. So when you have this guy going, yeah, I've done all this, I've achieved all this, and I'm stuck with I'm stuck beholden to a investor who thinks he's smarter than he is and who is, able to lord over me all these things. So I've got these financial partners that I don't care for. And I've got my regular customers who don't care one iota for what I do, despite being here pretty frequently. Like when he says, "Can you name one thing you've eaten here?"
Right.
Just one.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do it.
It's like and they attempt and they even guess the wrong fish.
Right.
Yep. Just twisting the knife in there a little bit, or when there's someone who professes to admire what you do but is just a sycophant and an annoying sycophant. Again, like I don't write creatively a whole lot, but I do what could loosely be academically described as reporting. And there's always some jackass in the comment section who thinks they could do it better. You know what, buddy? You are welcome. You are welcome to try and do what I do. Because I tell people all the time, what I do is not difficult, but it's really hard to do right. Any idiot can do it, but it's hard to do right. I mean, come on, Mark, you used to do what I do.
I do.
It's not easy to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's inevitably somebody there going, but I don't like your running gags. Like, I'm trying to sit through 8 hours of squash wrestling matches. I'm trying to keep myself entertained so you can read this and bitch at me about it.
Or God forbid you don't tackle the exact same movie or television show that every single podcast is talking about. God forbid you talk about anything new. And you talk about it in a way that maybe an adult can appreciate and not just, I saw the thing and the thing that I liked that was cool.
And can I also say this spoke to my soul a little bit too. When John Leguizamo, God bless him, says, "Why am I here, sir? You've explained everyone else, and I kind of get it. What did I do?" And he goes, "You were in this terrible movie that wasted my one day off in 8 months, and now your visage haunts me."
Was that too close to your heart, huh, Rob?
Just a bit.
Okay, tell me I'm not the only one who laughed hard though when he told the assistant why she was like, "Where'd you go to school? Brown? Student loans? No? Yeah, you die."
I'm sorry, you die.
That was great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great comedy here, and again, there's stuff that, depending on how you've lived your life, if you've ever done like service industry or retail, which is loosely adjacent, because I've done retail. That sucks, and I have felt the sting of that a lot.
I got a question. With your, sunshine demeanor that you bestow upon all of us, how was retail for you?
If you ever want to know some of why I am the way I am, none of you knew me before I worked at Kmart.
Oh God, you worked at Kmart?
Are you like the old man in like the fucking Looney Tunes cartoon where it's like running off the boat? I was a man once and like, running out of Walmart or Kmart or whatever.
I worked at Kmart for about 8 months. I got there before Easter, a couple of weeks before Easter, and I left before Thanksgiving.
Okay, at least you were saved having to work Black Friday. I worked at a Walmart in college, and they had me scheduled for Black Friday, and I quit just in time.
Call.
Hey, I want to address some of the issues the film has. So
let me do some of my issues real fast, and I'll kick that back to you. Let me be negative first for a change. I lead with negative. When I say be negative first, I mean I'd be the first person to be negative on the panel, not necessarily that I don't always lead with negativity. You mentioned the pacing. I do agree. It's a little bit of an issue. The ending I go back and forth on. Because I'm me, like I wanted the full bleak ending. I really did. But I didn't quite get it.
You didn't want anyone to make it?
Yep.
Okay.
Or like, if you want to be really sadistic, like she makes it to the boat and then it turns out the cheeseburger's poisoned. Like something like that.
Or the boat blows up or some shit.
The guy survives the zombie apocalypse only to be shot by the people wrapping up. Like,
right.
Again, like, so I prefer I lean to the bleakness a little bit on occasion.
Or like a Stockholm syndrome thing with her and Ralph Fiennes, where it's like he's just like slowly but surely feeding her, and that's like his new obsession. And she's like, in the basement and like, bloated, and that's how he's
Yeah.
like reclaimed his,
Yeah.
his
Or
love of
something like
food.
Midsummer, where she's effectively brainwashed and decides that she wants to stay and burn with them.
In a way,
No, I would have went full Mist,
yeah.
where she had to watch everybody die for no reason, but just the joy of her watching everybody die and have to deal with it.
We're gonna come back to this because there's some stuff there. Go ahead, Robert.
I joked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm not joking when I say that Anya Taylor-Joy eating a cheeseburger took me out of this movie.
That really seems picayune, by the way.
I don't know why, but it did. Like I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this woman, very talented actress, and I
Can
know.
I criticize you for that?
Hang on, let me.
That
let me-
almost
Let's
almost
get through
feeds
it,
the line
Mark.
between body shaming. That almost feeds the
Hang
line of
on.
body shaming.
Well, let me finish my point about
I have to
this.
raise an issue that's substantial. Go
Okay.
ahead. Okay, go.
I understand your point. My point is not that like she's again like my point is not that she's not an attractive woman. My point is how you present yourself and what you do on film has to be a reflection of that to some degree or another. And when I see someone who looks like Letitia Wright, you look
Don't
like
go down that road.
you make a broom look overweight, and I see you eat a cheeseburger, I'm very taken out of this moment because I know you didn't do that. There's no way that woman's diet allows for cheeseburger consumption. I'm not even saying like her cheat day can't even be a cheeseburger. And
Except that you're now transposing the actress into the movie where there was a character who just escaped
Yes.
near death.
and
It's
I'm
fine.
aware of that. And this is my other gripe with Anya Taylor-Joy here. And this is going to seem really weird, but bear with me while I make my point. She cannot do generic. Her character here is supposed to be kind of an every woman, right?
She's a prostitute.
She's an escort, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, but like,
But she's supposed to be the eyes for the audience,
yes,
is what you're
like,
saying.
You're supposed to be the very generic human being.
You're saying
in this.
she's too unique of a person, personage, body type for the audience to project themselves on. Is that your point?
More that the way this character is written, like she works fine as a pseudo point of view character in the Queen's Gambit, but here, like, I'm supposed to believe you're a slightly other side of the tracks, again, call girl who grew up in Brockton, Massachusetts. Nice pull, but your accent is nowhere near close, for the record. There's a disconnect between what Anya Taylor-Joy is on screen and what the film is trying to tell me she is.
Okay.
Some people,
Robert, then humor me. Give me a name of an actress or two that you would have cast in the lead instead.
she's perfect. Like this is more an issue of
The
writing.
blonde broad from Community.
Emma Watson, I think, was tied to it originally.
Yeah, that was the
Emma
original.
Stone. It was Emma Stone.
Emma
It was
Stone.
Emma Stone. I know it was one of the Emmas that.
Well, Emma Stone can do every person. Like she can do the every person character. Anya Taylor-Joy is a tremendous actress, but she's not an every person role kind of actor. And look, that's not an insult. Some actors are big. Some actors express a certain vibe, and some don't. And you can do with that what you will. But that's just kind of reality.
So, Robert, just real quick, because I want to make sure I'm understanding you. So,
Okay.
so when my turn comes, we're not, crashing the same thing. If the movie had included a scene, even though we're still trying to hide the escort thing, of like maybe Nicholas Hoult, we hear him like on an answering machine, and we see her all like plain, like in a t-shirt, getting ready, and like we had a scene of her like getting her hair up and getting into the dress, would that have allowed you as an audience member to feel more of a connection from the every woman to now this, gorgeous, Anya Taylor-Joy, hair all up, ball, what lovely evening gown look? Is that one of the things that's bugging you?
It might have helped. For me, this is a little bit like, this is a very broader issue that I have with Hollywood films in general at the moment. Average people aren't on screen.
There is some truth to that.
Not very usually. I think we're moving towards an era where that's going to happen more.
One would hope. I mean, like, you can't try and... What was the one that annoyed me? There was a couple on...
There's a handful.
There's several instances of this lately that they've really kind of stuck in my craw.
I know what you're talking about, though. When they did Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Jack Davenport was supposed to play Arthur Dent. And they actually came in and said, no, Arthur Dent's the everyman. Davenport's way too good looking. Yeah. And they cast Martin Freeman instead.
Yeah, Martin Freeman, a great everyman. He's a regular looking person. But there was something I saw recently where a very attractive male character, I think it was one of the Chris's, but don't hold me to that. And we are told repeatedly throughout the movie that he is average. And I wanted to throw something. Like, there's a wild disconnect between what is actually average and what is presented as average.
That wasn't Snowpiercer, was it?
Might have been. And God bless him for trying to make Chris Evans look like someone who's lived in the slums when he's in the midst of his Captain America physique.
That's why he had to wear that stupidly thick sweater in Knives Out.
But they were trying to hide it there too. So when it comes to, there's just certain types of roles that different actors are going to gravitate towards and kind of excel in, and I don't think Anya Taylor-Joy does the everyman kind of role very well. She can do, this is gonna sound really weird, but she can do like grounded, down to earth. But there's got to be something that I do not believe that she is in any way, again, the every person. And I mean, even if you take this into some very kind of generic other horror elements, like she's great in The Witch because
literally just about to bring that up. Well done.
Yeah. But
she was great in The Northman.
She's great. Again, she's a very good actress. But The Northman is very quasi-mystical. There's a very ephemeral quality to it, and her role in that is designed to accentuate that. Her role in the
word use.
Thank you. Her role in The Witch is very similar. Like, she's meant to feel just a little bit like otherworldly, like she doesn't quite fit with everyone else who is very, very hard scrabble, very, very.
Yeah,
and I don't mean this as,
wind burnt skin, and she's got this like flawless, like Riff Tracks makes fun of it when they did Pirates of the Caribbean, when Elizabeth Swan's being on the boat to the pirate cave of Île de Morta, one of the Riff Trackers goes, she's wearing her, oh no, I've been kidnapped makeup.
Yeah,
and
that's very fair.
Same issue.
And it's a real minor gripe as far as this movie goes, but I don't think she does the everyman character very well, and that's fine. She's an extremely talented actress, and it's just one of those things. Like, Tom Cruise can't be 6'4". He's a movie star through and through, but there's realities to what you can. Like, he failed as Jack Reacher because Jack Reacher has to be a big, intimidating presence. Tom Cruise might be 10 foot tall on the movie screen, but if you try to have him fight off 5 other guys at the same time, it falls apart because we can see Tom Cruise.
I still remember the first time I saw a trailer for that movie, and I just is this just like a parody of Tom Cruise style roles? Because
it really could have been.
Yeah, I didn't know who Jack Reacher was, so I just saw him like it literally came across like just a parody role.
And again, that's not that Tom Cruise can't be an action star. He's a great action star. He's not a ninja. And that's fine. You could just have to make allowances for that in both the casting and the writing. Anya Taylor-Joy is a tremendous actress. She sells her fear here very well. She sells her intelligence very well. She's not a damsel in distress. She's she thinks. You can see her thinking. She plays off of everyone well. That's all great. I just struck when her story then winds up being I'm kind of a hard scrabble call girl with a heart of gold from Brockton, Massachusetts. That falls apart. If you actually sell her as the straight up always high priced escort, this works so much better. But again, that's a very minor complaint about the general writing and casting there. You mentioned Emma Stone can be the every woman character. I don't know how she would have. Anya Taylor-Joy's presence lends a kind of quasi-dreamlike status to this entire film that it relies on actually as it builds its tension. Like, you need to be a little bit not sure what's real and what's not. And she does help with that. Whereas, so again, like there's things that this helps with, but if I've got a major gripe, I think it's elements of the backstory and the writing of that character with that actress that just doesn't line up for me.
Hey, I want to address something that Jason had a major problem with because I think it's a fairly big conversation point. I'm going to get Dorian's opinion on it because I disagree with Jason, but I'm curious to see what the rest of you think. Jason, like 50 words or less, your issue with the cheeseburger.
It just takes me out of the entire movie. You build all this tension up to basically reduce him down to a fry cook at DQ Grill and Chill. And he's got this menacing presence, and it doesn't work with me. I mean, it takes me completely out of to say that what would have worked good is once she asked for the cheeseburger, she took one bite and goes, I don't like it. And just catch him off guard that way, or say she's full because she kept saying that she was still hungry, and then just take the one bite. Just be insulting back to him.
Okay.
But the whole cheeseburger thing is just, you build up, she sees this, she sees the humanistic side, but that's like basically when Batman and Superman say Martha, and I mean, that is the equivalent that I got from it, because it's like you see all this menacing, and the only thing she says is she wants a cheeseburger, and boom, his whole demeanor changes, all his body language changed. He's not that intimidating presence again, and you just basically neuter him.
Okay, so a couple of things. One, she wasn't there initially. She's just going to get killed because everyone's going to get killed, and Ralph Fiennes didn't feel the need to separate her from the pack. Everyone's going. This is all a part of the art project. This is a part of the performance. Nobody's special here. Everyone goes. That
Nay, because she was not supposed to be there. That's moment when fucked everything up.
That moment when she challenges him, that's when things change, right? And I want to real quick, Alexis. You know what that whole scene reminded me of? Ratatouille, where the food critic eats the ratatouille, and he's suddenly like, "I'm home again."
Transported back to his childhood. Yeah.
Right. There's a sense of loss that Ralph Fiennes is dealing with. He is mourning the death of love of his career, love of his profession, love of his art. And all of these people have contributed to the murder of said thing. And this is his way of, this is essentially a revenge tale. This is his way of getting revenge on all of those people, or sort of excising this demon from him, of which he really didn't play a role. And she gives him this, she gives him this moment. That's why I brought up Ratatouille. She gives him this moment of joy. The joy of doing the thing you love for someone else, and it brings them joy. It doesn't work. I can see you're like chomping at the bit, but listen. It doesn't work if she cuts him down. The whole point of that scene is to have that moment for him of almost like redemption. Like, wait, there's a reason to go on. There's, there's an outstretched hand that I can grab onto here. Ultimately, he and his way of dealing with it is, I'm too far gone, but I'm willing to let you save yourself now. You kind of saved a little bit of my soul for myself. You can go now. Hang on before you jump in here. Dorian, you hear what I'm trying to say?
I'm sorry, say again? You kind of broke up on my end.
I wanted you to weigh in on what I was talking about. No, that's fine. Yeah. I wanted you to weigh in on the cheeseburger thing, what I was saying, what Jason's saying.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. You just kind of broke up for a second. No, yes.
That's fine.
Again, I the reason I liked that moment is, and I'm quoting a line from Bruce Almighty. It's when Morgan Freeman as God says, "Some of the happiest people in the world go home at night stinking to high heaven." And when I saw that scene, it made me think of that line simply because it was like Ralph Fiennes' character was this almost Phantom of the Opera conflicted character in that moment, simply because it was like when she asked for that, he remembered how simple life had been. But I almost got this kind of subtext to his character that ambition had, and as Robert was talking about, that drive for perfectionism had turned him into a monster. Using the Phantom thing, the Phantom was a beautiful musician, a great architect, engineer, blah, 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 and because of his imperfection, and his inability to deal with that and how the world treated him, he became a monster. In the same way, I feel like the chef is the same way. When she asked for that, again, it is the Ratatouille thing where you're being transported back to, it was a simpler time.
There are two different scenes I want to draw attention to. Pig, from last year with Nicolas Cage, where you have this hoity chef who has sold out and he's running this really fancy restaurant, and Nicolas Cage reminds him, "Didn't you want to do like a gastropub?" And he's like having a meltdown over it. Like, he got called out for selling his soul. The other one is Chef, where you have that constant argument between Rain Man, help me, Alexis.
Dustin Hoffman.
Thank you, Dustin Hoffman and Jon Favreau, where Dustin Hoffman's like, please just play the hits, please be Journey, just play Separate Ways, and stop trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're trying to sell plates, not create art. And Jon Favreau's like, you are killing me in my crib. You are just strangling me to death. And that's all that scene was, and that's why it works. But you're struggling with this, Jason, and I don't want to take your time from you, so go ahead.
Yeah. Now, if the scene earlier where he gives her the out wasn't there, I could understand it. But she
never gave her an out. He said, either,
yes, he does. Join us or join them.
She's still going to die either way.
Everyone's going to die.
Out there, it was either sit with the takers or sit with the givers, but everyone dies here.
Yeah, he said, she was like, so I can die with you or I can die with them. That was her exact. Yeah, he wasn't going to let her live.
It's still, but if you rework that scene, it adds a little bit to me. And like I said, I'm sorry that I have my own opinion, but it takes
You're
me
allowed
out
to have
of
an
my
opinion, Jason. That's where
sometimes it doesn't. But it takes me out because she wasn't supposed to be there. He basically gives her an out, and because she betrays him and finds out this information, because obviously now she's a ninja, and when she goes to the house and she has these wonderful knife skills and fighting skills, as the streetwalkers do, that it just takes me out. That entire thing. I mean, I could get with her finding his humanity, but for her just to be like, oh, just make me a cheeseburger, it's like, okay. And you take the menace from everything. Like I said, I was in the hopes of this being more like the mist ending. Like Robert said, I love a bleak ending to where the cheeseburger was poisoned, or like she goes to leave, and you see earlier on the Coast Guard is in on it, and they just pick her up, and she's like saying thank you, and then they just shoot her, and it goes black because there's no witnesses. No, I'm just saying that would have aligned more with the buildup for me than just her saying I want a cheeseburger, and then her just going out on a boat and watching the fire as she wipes her mouth with the menu and enjoys the rest of her cheeseburger.
I thought wiping her mouth with the menu was symbolic.
But in retrospect, it was
like
kind
the rat
of
at the end of The Departed. It symbolizes obviousness.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ralph.
But if she dies, it gives a little bit more meaning, because he still accomplishes his goal, because everybody there was supposed to die. Just saying you want a cheeseburger should not save your life. If that was the case, Wimpy would still be living on in our minds and hearts forever.
I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Alexis, if you want to weigh in on anything else Jason said, feel free, but I also want to hear if you had any issues with the film.
I think the one thing that does sell the scene for me is Ralph Fiennes' reaction. He is poised, he is still stoic, he is not breaking down crying, but he's got tears in his eyes. And we actually can see just glimmers of happiness. He gives a very subtle turn in when she says she wants a cheeseburger with fries.
Mm-hmm.
And if he had acted any other way, I would have agreed with Jason, but the way he carries it, you could just see that little flicker of hope go off in his head. I thought really is what made that moment work.
If you've ever been driven, and I have deliberately shut off my drive in life for a lot of reasons, that are very complicated. But it's one of those moments that's really hard to. And Ralph Fiennes' acting tells you everything you need to know about the scene, but it's difficult to articulate this. If you've ever been so driven by something that you used to love, but you wind up trapped in a spiral around it, being reminded of what it used to be for you is incredibly powerful. It's one of the reasons if you ever want to make a man cry.
Hang on 1 second. I'll just throw this out there. I've been making a lot of jokes lately about like, hey, remember we used to have fun on here? Because I mean, for a while, this started to become a bit of a job, and I wasn't having as much fun with it. I just felt like I was clocking into work. You and over the past year or two, there's the occasional podcast where the joy of just hanging out and talking with my friends about something I'm passionate about comes back. Sometimes, we're just doing a show and it's fine, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking to who I'm talking to. And then those rare moments, those very rare moments that you're talking about, where like, I remember why I do this now. Like, famously, me and Jesse talking about reffing Too Old to Die Young,
which we're gonna do again, I imagine, in the near future.
You goddamn right we are. But like 3 hours of us just like holding our heads,
Why did we do this? Why did you do this to us, Reppin?
But it was so much fun, and like I because I'm doing various things with podcasts and feeds and whatnot, I go back and I listen to a lot of our old stuff, and I can hear like the happiness in my voice and like I'm legitimately having fun. And I hear some other stuff, and I'm just like, yep, I was just clocking in for work that day. And so I think on that level, this film resonated with me a lot, but I cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, just in that same vein, I can't necessarily take you because, again, the cheeseburger is not going to work for everyone because you may not be obsessed with food and what it used to mean to you. But for the vast majority of us, and this is, for some reason, this is more true of men, I've found. Because we, again, speaking as broadly as humanly possible here, so please don't get offended.
How about broads?
Why would you do that, Mark? Do it. I know you're going to do it. Do it.
No, I got distracted with something Jason put in the comments. Just keep going.
Because men tend to have drive and think about their lives and where we want to go, what we want to be. And again, more so than women, broadly speaking. If you want to make a grown man cry, you have to get him to be serious about this question, mind you. Because again, you can joke about it, but if you get him to be serious, you ask him, what would you say to the 8-year-old version of you? If I could put you next to 8-year-old you. I almost got you, didn't I?
No, I'm really.
I don't know.
Hang on. This past year, I have made a lot of snarky comments about marriage and relationships, and I'm really trying to pull the plane out of the tailspin I've been in. So, but it was just like, what would you say to your 8-year-old self? I know what I would say to myself a year ago, but I don't want to make that joke. Please continue.
No. I get that,
mm-hmm.
But because that's the default response. Like, I used to say, if I could meet myself as a teenager, I'd beat the shit out of myself.
I would just tell myself to calm the fuck down.
But again, when you think about that, but when you get past that first initial, like, okay, here's my joke, here's my default response. If you could have a conversation with you 8 to 10, like, what do you say to yourself? How does that go?
Don't ignore your chorus final.
Okay, but
your father will never let you hear the end of it. Wait.
Invest in Jergens.
I do get what you're saying, Robert. I mean, for Dorian and me, we both work in the creative field. And I know that there are times when we both just want to ram our heads through a wall because we're dealing with a client, customer, or whatever who has asked for something blatantly stupid and doesn't appreciate how much hard work we put into it. Yeah, pretty much. I've done enough work with him as his gaffer. I know that expression. And there is something about just getting to go back to what we love doing, why we loved our fields in the first place, and getting to create something that is purely ours and purely inspiring and reminds us, oh yeah, this is what we love about our jobs.
Hey, we kind of got away from it because you were dealing with the cheeseburger thing, but really quickly, Alexis, like 10 words or less, any problems you had with the film?
Honestly, I can't really, like I said, I really can't think of anything. This is a film that I greatly enjoyed. I loved everything about it. This is a movie I called on my friends. I'm like, you need to see this. And it's so funny because I called actually a handful of them. Were like, oh, I don't like horror movies. I'm like, I don't care. You need to see this.
Yeah, this is one of those horror movies that if, 2 or 3 years ago, Robert were like, you can handle this one, Radulich, it's fine. This is like barely horror. So Dorian, back clean up for me. Anything craft wise that you want to point at that say, hey, this doesn't really work structurally?
Yeah, I've been making some notes here really quickly. I want to speak to Jason, and I'm going to be very quick about this. You were talking about you're allowed to have your own opinion, and sometimes it's not going to agree. He's
butthurt that I didn't agree with him.
No, and that's fair. But I wanted to personally say to you and any of the audience members that are watching here, as a filmmaker myself, I love reviews like Jason's gave, even if he doesn't like the film, because what that does to me is, even if I don't agree with him personally, it allows me to go back to the film that I created and I worked really hard on. And I know I didn't obviously direct or write the menu or even work on it, but it allows me to go back and look at it from somebody else's point of view, and then be able to go into the next film and go, you know what? I remember this guy said this, and you know what? Going back and looking at it, he wasn't wrong. So again, thank you personally. That's always helpful. I mean, I know I can't fix this movie, for you, but I'll try to talk to Ralph Fiennes when we have coffee next Tuesday. But no, I'm gonna hit on a few things, and I'm gonna do this as quick as humanly possible because I know we're on the clock. Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy's characters' relationship really touched me right off the bat, and I loved the interplay they had, and then the softness they had, because there was something that a friend of mine who's also worked in the food industry, and he works in New York, has said, is that there is no difference between a 4-star chef and an escort. They're both boards. They both have money thrown at them constantly to create bigger and more beautiful and just perfect things on a drop. So to me, their relationship spoke to me because of that. And I felt that his softness for her was, because of that. Him basically, not necessarily letting her go, but it was almost in a weird way. And I'm sorry to go back to Phantom of the Opera here. It's almost like, go, you have a chance. I'm screwed. This is the end for me. You've still got a chance to step out of, being constantly hounded by people for this and that and the other thing and having to be perfect at all times.
I think it's important to remember she also didn't do anything wrong to him.
Exactly.
She's the only character in this that's a victim of circumstance. She's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And you literally took the words out of my mouth because that was the next note. So again, that's been taken care of. The cheeseburger thing to me, and I know Robert had brought this up. It's like, I can't see Anya Taylor-Joy eating a cheeseburger. To me, and again, I'll go back to the escort thing. Escorts are like basically models, they have to be constantly, perfect and in shape and not eating anything. So to me, her asking for a cheeseburger was almost kind of, what? Fuck it. If I'm going to die, I want a goddamn cheeseburger and fries. If this is all going to go to hell, at least I'm going to be like, hey, that was good.
And nothing deconstructed.
Right.
There probably is a sense of when she's sitting on the boat eating that cheeseburger, it's like, well, considering what I just went through.
Yeah, you know what?
Can we also point to the obvious thing? Because I've known a lot of hookers and prostitutes and porn actresses in my life, and they ate.
Oh, really, Mr. Radulich?
Yes. Next week, folks, we discuss that.
Well documented on this network year after year.
For those of you who may not have heard this particular story, Mark used to work for a well-known pornographer when he was out in California.
Before he was federally prosecuted and imprisoned for a year.
My last and final thing, and this is my only gripe against the movie, and it's just on a again, filmmaker being a picky anal bitch that I am, I felt like the movie could have really been helped if it was done in the Japanese horror style and perhaps with a Japanese director and Japanese cast.
Can you explain what that is for
Okay.
those of us that don't pay
Yeah.
attention to things that are in Japan?
Okay.
Your daughter will disown you.
I'm sorry.
In joke. Don't worry about it. You're good.
Okay, fair enough. No, for the audience that doesn't understand this, Japanese horror is very. It can be. They have psychological across every subgenre of horror, whether that's slasher, gore fest, whatever. There's a deeper psychological, almost monster that's from the start of the movie just kind of starting to erupt from this core, and by the end, it's either exploded and taken everyone out, or our heroes have been successful in some way. But there are very few of the Japanese horror movies where everyone walks away, even if they walk away alive. There's parts of them missing, and I'm not talking about like limbs or stuff like that. There's part of their soul and like their innocence and so much missing. Now again, that's done in American horror movies too. Nobody walks away like, yay, we beat Michael Myers. Let's go have a cheeseburger and fries. But I felt that this movie could have, and I'm gonna blank on his name right now, but like the director of Ringu and Ju-on, The Ring and The Grudge. Not trying to be uppity there. I felt he could have brought something to this movie. Like again, I loved it, but like if I had to put a gripe on it that would have made it better. I feel like a Japanese or even Korean director and crew could have really blown this out of the water, and I think would have solved a lot of the problems that the rest of you guys have been talking about throughout. So.
Maybe I can't think of his name. The guy who did Snowpiercer and The Parasite.
Yeah, and again, I was thinking his name.
I'm massacring his name. I'm sorry.
Give me a sec.
I mean, they could have got Hong
Asian
Kong
audience
Phooey
for
and
not
it would've
knowing
worked.
shit. But yeah, so that's the end of my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Sorry, Dorian. You can fire me later for not knowing that director's name.
Hey, I didn't do it
Hang
either.
on.
I fired myself.
Bong
sorry.
Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho. That's
Thank
it.
you.
All right, I think that wraps up our craft review, unless anyone's got any burning desires. Jason, you got anything else?
No, I think I pretty much laid everything out there that I had. Don't get me wrong. I did not hate this movie. I enjoyed the movie. It's just that one scene that just took me out of it and knocked it down a couple of pegs for me. I thought it was a great movie, but I'm the type of person I get really immersed into the movies. I like being that fully immersed. And when something like that happens, it totally takes me out of it, and it ruins the whole experience for me.
All right. I'm going to stay with you. Go ahead and do your plugs.
All right. You can find me over on the Mosaic MC Media. Me and Tyler Louder talk fantasy football. You can check us out on Instagram, any podcast platform, TikTok, and Facebook. We're pretty much getting into where we're winding down for the regular season of fantasy football. We still got our Guillotine League with a bunch of great content creators in the fantasy football realm, where the winner chooses their charity and we all donate to it in their name. So it's a pretty little fun thing that we did this year. So yeah, definitely check us out on all formats. It's Mosaic MC.
All right. Hey, just so the audience knows, we're going to go another hour. Robert and I still have to do the money. We actually have a new segment that I want to deal with, and then we have the critical review. But I understand that this is the part of the podcast where I keep a lot of people hostage, and they don't really want to be here anymore. So we're going to allow people who want to depart into the night do their thing, and then Robert and I can dim the lights, light a candle, and get all sexy with the money. So speaking of sexy money, Dorian Price, any last words, burning desires? If not, go ahead and plug your stuff.
Again, I like the movie. To anyone who's a horror fan or even just a psychological horror movie fan, I definitely recommend it. Go see it. If you want to wait till it's on streaming or it's on video, that's fine. There's not any horrible, big, gigantic twists that people are going to spoil for you, but go see it. It's every one of the cast brings their A game, and it's absolutely fantastic. For plugging, I have a few short films, but there's that we're working on right now for festivals. Can't really talk much about those. But what I will say is, for anyone looking for For photography or videography, please go to facebook.com, Dorian Price, photographer / videographer. You can see all the stuff I've done there. We do wedding photos, baby photos. If it can take a picture, or if it has to have a picture taken of it, I do it. For videography, I have a full crew. We do events, family stuff, whole shebang. Again, if it has video needed to take care of it, we can do it. So again, that's on Facebook, Dorian Price, photography and videography.
Hey, Dorian, you're obviously welcome back anytime. Appreciate you having you on.
Absolutely. You just say when, I'll be here.
I know you say when. You tell me.
Okay.
I'll keep you in the loop when we do more horror films, dude.
My people will call your people. We'll do
that. Sounds great. That's perfect, baby.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, Alexis, are you staying or going?
Mark, you know that I've pretty much sold my soul to you. Do you want me to stay on for this new segment?
Of course I do. All right, so
Then
let's go ahead.
here.
Okay. Let me go ahead and just make sure that you said you were good with the film. Is there anything else that was on your list of things to talk about that you didn't, or are you good to go?
I stand by my request. I want a freaking cookbook with these recipes in it, and I want it to include the cheeseburger and the bullshit lamb chops.
Can I tell you how one of the things I do with my kids is take them to the bookstore, and lately they're starting to expand out of the manga section. They started looking at cookbooks. There's a cookbook for everything now.
Oh,
apparently
I know.
that is the easiest thing to create.
Dorian just jumped off. He's got the freaking Hannibal TV show cookbook. I flipped through it.
That was given to me for Christmas last year. I have Feeding Hannibal.
Okay, I hate to say it. I've cut down on
There's like a D&D cookbook, like any stupid, like really stupid niche thing. There's a cookbook to it because apparently all you need to do is have a stack of recipes and assign some stupid name to it. Voila, cookbook.
I hate to admit it. I've cut
you give
down
it a name
on,
and you tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you sell these things.
So I hate to say it. I've cut down on the amount of cookbooks, but my Pinterest, I have a whole board called Recipes and Sweet Tooth Indulgences, and I have got tons of recipes on here inspired from movies and TV shows. One of my favorite YouTube shows is, I don't know if you guys have ever watched, it's called Binging with Babish.
I've heard
I have.
Okay, he's freaking awesome. Completely self-trained chef who makes recipes based off of things that are in movies. He made the ratatouille from Ratatouille. He made that Sunday from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. He's made he made the isotope dog, Robert, from The Simpsons.
With all the rich Southwest flavors.
All the rich, he made that. He also made, oh my god, what were Marge Simpson's dessert dogs?
Oh yeah.
He made those too. He makes so much, and he's so much fun to watch. I love his stuff.
All right, well,
I get to smoke the turkey tomorrow, so that's my contribution to culinary discussion. Spatchcock it, smoke it up.
I'm not touching the turkey. I'm roasting carrots.
I get to do a alternative commentary track with my son, as is our yearly tradition. We're doing Paul Blart Mall Cop.
God help your soul.
You know what? That's not actually the dumbest thing, Kevin. That's not the dumbest thing that Kevin James has ever done.
Well, I learned from Ben-Hur not to do 2+ hour dramas with my son.
That's a good idea.
Where the only thing that's good about it is the last 10 minutes where they kill a bunch of horses. So, speaking of killing horses, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Alrighty.
Also, Paul Blart Mall Cop, not the dumbest thing Boss Rutan has ever been in on screen.
All right. This thing had a budget of $30 million. It'll probably end up being profitable, all told. It's currently doing $17.5 million. As far as the weekend goes, this is Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, it opened number 2. You know what? Good for it.
Yeah.
I was going to say for a this is apparently Searchlight?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of Searchlight's most successful wide releases.
Well, considering the track record of that studio, that's not saying much. But yes, I
know it's like being taller than Tom Cruise. I get it.
Black Panther held on to its number 1 spot. Go ahead, Robert. Kick dirt in my eye.
Just a little bit. Because I said last week I expected it to win the weekend again. Fully expected that.
Of course, we all did.
I said it was going to have a steep drop somewhere in the 60% neighborhood. Mark said it will have a percentage hold of over 50%, which is ridiculous. When I say that's ridiculous, that's not your prediction was ridiculous. any movie that has a hold that good, that's a ludicrous achievement.
My argument at the time was it had no direct competition. Strange World came out as of this recording today, unless you went to like early Tuesday previews. So its direct competition was a Me Too drama about 2 New York Times reporters that nobody saw. More on that in a moment. And this. So I figured Black Panther had good word of mouth. It's Thanksgiving weekend. Families are out looking for shit to do. I figured with its second week hold, it would hold above 50%. I understand what you're saying. It's like that's a tall order, even with the most successful variables. I mean, I hear you. I didn't think it would have as steep a drop as it did, given the easy downhill slope playing field it was on.
Well, for the record, it dropped 63%. Sunday saved that thing's drop. If you were looking at projections on Saturday, it was projected to drop almost 70%. That was much more like 67%.
The menu.
But look, it's an almost 3-hour movie that doesn't have a lot of rewatch value. Sorry.
But again, I didn't think everyone that was going to see it saw it the first weekend. I figured there'd be enough holdover. But it is what it is. The Menu debuted at number 2. The Chosen season 3, episode 1 and 2 debuted at number 3. Black Adam. Let me acknowledge this now. That is now available for PVOD rental. It is now out of theater exclusivity, which means I have lost the bet. It didn't even make 400 million.
I was about to say, I was going to ask, but how many orders of magnitude?
I think I've been saying 700 all year.
You said 7?
But when I looked at the picture that I posted in the chat from back in January, we actually agreed on 650. But it didn't even come that close. It didn't break 400 million. When you think about, I don't know all told what it's going to do worldwide, but it's at a $200 million budget. It's currently at the end of the theater exclusivity. It hasn't even doubled its budget yet. Black Adam, and no one's talking about this. Black Adam's kind of a flop.
Just a bit. Black Adam is persisting at the moment on a couple of things. One is everyone who saw it had a good time. Nobody came out of that movie and said this sucked necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They could say they're a little disappointed, but
True.
they didn't say it sucked.
Again, there are criticisms of the movie to be made. We made several of them. But you can't say it's terrible. It's generic. Sure. Again, I'm not going to relitigate all that.
Yeah.
That helps. It's doing well digitally at the moment. Now, you can take this for what it's worth because not all these numbers are public. So we're dealing with a little bit of, second and third hand stuff here. But most metrics that track this kind of stuff show it doing very well digitally at the moment, which is not terribly surprising. This is not really it's not a movie that needed to be seen on the big screen. You can get that movie, you can enjoy that movie just as well on your television, on your computer. So that whatever it does digitally is going to help it a lot as well. And the fact that it's at the moment its digitalness is not free. You're paying for it wherever you get it. It's not free on a streaming service yet. So its second market effort is going to help it. I'm shocked that thing is not available in China, and I don't know why. Some of the stuff that doesn't get a Chinese release, I know why. And some of it's not very hard to figure out either. This one, I'm a little bit surprised. There's not a whole lot here unless you deal with the bit where the character dies, because China has weird rules about what you can do with death in the afterlife. So that might be what's doing it. At this point, Disney's not getting China releases in a lot of respects because they're pissed at Disney.
Well, I'm wondering how much of the film industry now has to just adapt to when greenlighting films and producing budgets. They're taking, it's the Warcraft rule. They're taking China into account. They may, going forward, there may be conversations happening right now about maybe we need to take China off the board. Maybe if it's bonus if we get a China release, but start greenlighting and start budgeting movies, thinking China's out of the question. At which point, reduce your take by about 400 million.
Ish, yeah, it's a very large.
Yeah.
What was it Anthony Mackie said about this? Because he was asked, I don't know if we're going to talk about this in depth, but Quentin Tarantino it's caused a little bit of a Twitter storm when in an interview he criticized the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, he said something to the effect of the actors are not the stars, the characters are the stars.
And
he's not wrong.
One of the things he said, another thing about which he is not wrong, but this got people up in arms because the sycophants came out and certain people attached to the MCU in an official capacity who haven't been there long enough to realize they don't care about you decided to come out and kind of take issue with what he said. And meanwhile, a clip started resurfacing of Anthony Mackie when he mentioned, Anthony Mackie is not a movie star. This was some panel or something, and he was asked about it. And he said, I'm not a movie star. The Falcon's a movie star. I would disagree with that as well, but I get his point.
Yeah.
It used to be you would go to see the Schwarzenegger, the Stallone, the Van, whatever.
There's a really great way to look at this. Movies have become sports. Now, most people get granular and they know the athletes on each team. So you go to see the Tampa Bay Rays play baseball, who's in the lineup, people who are big fans. But most people, when they buy a ticket to a game, they don't know who the players are. They're going to see the Tampa Bay Rays hit a baseball and run around the bases. And I think that's where we are with movies now, where most people they're going because they want to see the new Marvel thing. They're going because they want to see the new DC thing. They're going. Here's the other thing.
To the extent that they're still going, which is itself.
Well, that's the other thing. You get people who their thing is to go to the movies. Most people are willing to wait till they get home. Like, I can't tell you how many people watched Thor: Love and Thunder once it came on Disney Plus because there was no point in seeing it in the theater. There was once the 45-day window changed and streaming and streaming apps became the norm. For a lot of people, the calculus was, I don't want to spend the money to go to the theater anymore.
If I'm paying you as much as I'm paying you for your crappy streaming service, I may as well get some value out of it. But
now when you don't have to wait that long, but I don't think the industry has caught up yet. I
probably not.
So let's go back because, and this is going to somewhat dovetail into a later discussion we're going to have about She Said. A lot of projects got greenlit a few years ago that were part of like the woke Me Too, the Message movement, and
we were killing the movies.
and we were digging out for the longest time. A lot of that stuff didn't make any money. A lot of it crashed and burned. And I know like people are just like, oh, he's gonna be like the drinker. I'm not even gonna get into all that. These are facts. Charlie's Angels bombed. Dark Fate bombed. A lot of the movies of that ilk bombed, but they are already shot. Batwoman Batgirl was such an odd case because that generally doesn't happen. You don't shoot a movie, it's almost done, and then not release it.
Wasn't that completely done?
I think they said they just had a little bit of post-production to do. For all intents and purposes, they had shot everything they needed to shoot.
Right.
Probably just like a few effects that were unfinished.
Principal photography was wrapped. They were just doing special effects at that point.
And now it's basically Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie.
Correct. But my point is that for the longest time, we were still releasing these movies because they had to. We're going to just sit on like $200 million, $150 million projects for no good reason. That's just throw it out there.
Contractual language about releasing these things.
Right. So
for a lot of reasons.
So my problem with a lot of like the YouTube culture is you have all of these videos going, oh my God, it's another woke movie. It's another message movie. Stop. There's lag, people. It takes 3 to 4 years to get this stuff shot, edited, affected, and released.
To say nothing of all the films that had serious delays due to the unknown virus of unspecified origin.
Right. So in a lot of ways, we're still digging out of all that stuff. And then you factor in things like nobody could figure out. We talked about this when we talked about Black Adam. No one could figure out from 1 minute to the next what they were doing at DC.
They still can't. Heck, Disney sort of unceremoniously switched CEOs the other day. This is not exclusive to the DC kind of clown fiesta.
I was going to say, Zach and I talked about this on the Wonderful Seasons of Mickey Mouse discussion. We ended up talking a lot about the corporate ladder at Disney.
And I think that's going to go very badly for them because Bob Iger is Bob Iger, and there's stuff he's good at and there's stuff he's not, and they're not in a position where they need what he's good at.
So all of that to say that, we're relating this to the Black Adam struggle. Take China out of there. Take the lack of interest for most people to. I'm going to go ahead and put this out there because we've touched on a lot of things over the last couple of podcasts in terms of movie-going habits. I think the one thing that we haven't said really loudly out loud is going to the movies isn't quite the fun time that it used to be.
It's not.
I bought
Wish it
tickets.
was.
I'm an AMC Stubs member. I bought 8 tickets, 4 adults, and I go for free. So 3 adults, 4 children, with the fees waived, with all of my bonuses, whatever. So it cost me $115. That's walking in the door. You want to buy candy? You want to buy popcorn? Another $20 or $30. I mean, most people, you're talking about $100 a night just to go to the movies.
Yep.
It used to be $10.
Hey, but inflation's not that bad, right, Joe?
Stop. So,
For the love of God, a
look,
lot of us are going to have to put up with this for Thanksgiving tomorrow. Please don't make it worse right now.
Look, that's whoever's in the White House who gets that blame. That's not me saying Biden sucks. I think Biden sucks. I thought Trump sucks. This is not me saying my side. Any side has all the answers.
The point being, maybe like something like a Smile, which was shot for a song and got good word of mouth buzz and does a decent killing. But that's also horror for you.
Well, again, it's decently profitable, and then it is sold for a decent amount to a streaming service. Hey,
but again, but the opposite of that is Black Adam, where you take away China, you take away the vast majority of moviegoers, and suddenly they thought. I mean, when I said it was going to be a $700 million film, and all of you guys balked, but you guys also tend to be on the negative side of things. I think most analysts and most people working at Warner Brothers would have been on my side and like, no, we are banking on a $700 million plus gate on this thing.
They were
using an old rubric. That rubric you might as well throw in the trash now because it's no longer viable.
In that same vein, because we did touch on Black Panther, that thing might not make more than Thor: Love and Thunder when it's all said and done.
Well, we're gonna get there in a second. So anyway, Black Adam fell from 2 to 4. Ticket to Paradise 3 to 5. She said debuted at number 6.
Play it.
Oh, okay, fine. I this feels like bullying, but I love you, so I'm gonna do as you ask.
And
more on that in a moment.
You feel better about yourself, Robert?
A little bit.
Lyle Crocodile.
Also a bomb.
Thank God. I don't think anyone needs to see that movie.
I feel bad for Javier Bardem because Javier Bardem is awesome and he deserves better.
Smile dropped from 5 to 8. It's now currently on Paramount Plus. Pray for the Devil, which nobody except me and Kelsey saw, dropped from 6 to 9.
I was there. I saw it.
The Fancies of by the way, our TikToks on exorcisms did really, really well for me. Apparently that was like a big deal. Like people were really into it.
Note to self: people like exorcisms.
People apparently like religion, politics, and the monarchy. If based on my TikToks,
the 3 things you're not supposed to talk about.
Yep, they're apparently very popular on the TikTok.
Who'd have thought a tool of the devil enjoys things you're not supposed to talk about?
The Banshees of Inisherin dropped from 7 to 10. All right.
I have a feeling we're going to be talking the Banshees of Inisherin when we do our awards bait show because that one's getting a lot of awards buzz.
That thing's
it's
awesome.
Our best picture show, Alexis, not awards bait. Best picture survey.
Tomato.
Potato.
I
was gonna say.
All right, Bones and All debuted at number 15.
Oof.
Bones and All suffered from a really bad advertising campaign.
Yeah, they spent almost nothing on that. You know where you saw ads for that thing? Like Twitch and YouTube.
Well, that's why they made only 121,000.
Well, not to mention the first wave of advertisements didn't even capitalize on the fact this is a story about young cannibals. And they're even still very much so diluting that factor. It's like, who are you advertising this movie to? Seriously.
Where they find young cannibals?
Well, it's Timothy Chalamet, so yeah, he's pretty damn fine.
He's fine like porcelain, and that if you look at him too hard, he'll break.
The Inspection debuted at number 21. EO 26. Bad Axe 29. Only in theaters 32. Memories of My Father 33.
Is a movie?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
There, Robert Winfree, number 35, and that is The Weekend That Was. All right, worldwide. Nothing moved. Just nothing. Everything is exactly as it's been all year.
I seriously never would have predicted that Top Gun Maverick would have been the biggest movie of the year.
Mark did.
Wouldn't. I know Mark did. I put all my money saying that it was going to bomb because of how badly it had to keep getting shoved back. I thought they were dooming it.
Look,
I was wrong.
Hey, I said in like the couple of weeks leading up to that, I said I think this might flop. Like I was on that train.
Here's the thing.
And there's Mark going, look, I know men and I know my people.
I know what boys like. I know what guys want.
Okay, here's my other thing about Top Gun Maverick. Like, I never disputed it would win its weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that Tom Cruise is one of the only guys in Hollywood who has a little bit of creative pull.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, if this were any other property, his character dies and everyone goes, "Yay, let's all praise Lizard Brain Miles Teller."
Here's the other thing I'll tell you though. Top Gun Maverick didn't do the 45-day window. It did the full, I think, 100
Also true.
days.
Also very
so
true. That's
that
only,
was
isn't that like only now available?
yes.
Like very recently.
They announced back then it was only going to be available for PVOD in November.
Yeah.
So that was a movie that ran against the
before
grain. But in the under the heading of "This is why we can't have nice things," Jurassic World also made $1 billion this year.
God,
No
I hate
accounting
that.
for taste.
I hate that movie.
Yep. Anyway, everything's still the same. The one thing that changed: Black Panther got up to number 8. It is between Watergate Bridge and Fantastic Beasts.
And again, like I'm wondering if that cracks 800 million. Like I'm genuinely wondering that about that movie at this point.
Here are the movies currently doing better than Morbius.
Woohoo! My home video.
Uncharted, Black Adam.
My latest YouTube video has more views than Morbius.
Yeah, Elvis, The Bad Guys, Bullet Train, currently on some sort of streamer. Lightyear, Too Cool to Kill,
Netflix.
Smile, Nice View.
For the Bullet Train's on Netflix.
Okay. DC League of the Super Pets, The Lost City, and Nope. These films aren't even doing as well as Morbius, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, most of these didn't need to do as well as Morbius.
One Piece, The Black Phone, Ticket to Paradise, where the Crawdads sing, Scream, Death on the Nile, Halloween Ends. Oof, God, poor Blumhouse. Everything Everywhere All at Once, Triple R, The Roundup, Downton Abbey, A New Era, The Woman King, the movie that brought back the historical...
Revitalized the historical action epic, didn't it, Mark?
Yes, it did.
It was so stunning and brave.
You know, the thing about this show that you have to understand...
Not wrong.
Nope. All right. So that's the worldwide. This weekend coming up.
Now for Mark's pet project of the week.
Well, before we do,
Okay.
the weekend of December 2nd, we've got
Jumping all the way down to December 2nd.
We have one more weekend, you know.
Oh, that's the 26th. You're right. Sorry.
I would say November went by fast, but it's not that fast.
Well, Strange World. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Strange World and The Fablemans are in wide release now. Strange World, I'm sure, will win its weekend.
I'm not.
No, it'll win the weekend, but
You know what? No, I'm not even convinced of that at this point. Do you know the big issue with this?
what's the big issue with Strange World?
If file this under play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Your lead teenage romantic subplot for that movie is gay. And we know how big chunk of parents feel about taking their kids to kid movies with that stuff in it. And
so here's my question: is the word out on that? Like, do the parents know?
Yep.
If it is, I haven't seen. Okay, if I'm just gonna say, if that is a thing, that has not come up once in the animation historians board that Zach and I frequent.
That's what I've seen.
Now,
that's
it wouldn't surprise me if they wrote it like that because Jabuki Young White is queer. So,
look, I'm not making a value judgment on this. I'm stating a fact. That's going to hurt it big time.
You say Black Panther's going to take one more weekend?
I think it might.
Here's the thing. You just have to look at Lightyear to kind of know what the pattern here is. Once the average parent So here's the thing. We talked about this with Lightyear fairly at length. I think most parents are just kind of live and let live when it comes to the LGBTQ, I community. It's kind of like, do your thing. Nobody wants to hurt you. Nobody wants to take away your rights. We all want to live and let live. We all want to get through this thing called life. However, there's still this weird, like, amongst people in any part of the spectrum on the right politically that are still like, but keep it away from my kids. Even if like it's in your own family, they're just like, cousin Bobby is queer. That's fine. And we don't bother, nobody bothers cousin Bobby, but cousin Bobby just kind of needs to stay away from the cousins is all. That's all. No big deal.
Maybe don't make out with your boyfriend at Thanksgiving dinner. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Don't hold hands while you're, sitting around in the living room. And look, the people in the LGBTI, community who would be on this podcast talking to us, be like, well, you can't do that, and that's not fair, and that's. You shouldn't minimize people. You shouldn't be dismissive of people. And you're not wrong, but that doesn't change the fact that that's currently, we are still a center-right country. More, slightly more than 50% of the people, regardless of where they vote politically, still cling to social conservative values.
We just had another shooting at an LGBTQ club in Colorado just a few days ago.
Right. So,
hey, look. You can tell that you're moving up in the world because the shooter was non-binary. So you guys are getting to the same. I'm not going to make the joke. I'm just not going to make the joke. It's too close to the event for it to be.
Seriously, Robert, we have so few viewers. Could you stop scaring off the few that we have left?
Moving on. My point is, I think there are going to be people. We kind of talked about this with Turning Red, where it's like, if I can't bring my kids to a safe Disney movie, I just won't. Like, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, there's so many ways to entertain your kids now.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, this goes back to the first thing we said about just not going to the movies. Like, I'm going, but I do this show, and I'm taking my whole fucking polycule to go to the movies, and we're doing this as like a family. But I kind of feel like I'm in the minority now. Whereas most people like, this is not a thing we do as a family. We'll just watch it at home. If it's going to be all gay, then we're not going to do it at all. Well, there's something else. There's something else they can watch.
I go to the movies to do. There's movies that I want to go see. Let me preface what I'm about to say with that. I go to the movies because I do this show, and I go at the cheapest possible time that I can because I'm me. So that's the first showing I can get on a Tuesday when I can get in for $5. And I don't usually buy concessions. But I have to go out of my way for this. And I'm allowed, elements of my life afford me the luxury of being able to do that on a pretty regular basis because what I do for a living and the schedule I'm able to keep. For a lot of people, if you have to go prime time with more than one person, like you said, man, that this is a pretty serious financial commitment here that we're talking about. And
again, if you're one of these people that's just like, I don't mind gay people, I just don't need them around my kids, well, I'm not taking them to see the gay movie either. And that's what it's going to be. Like, because I guarantee you someone's like, oh, come on, one element of this has one gay character. That's quite enough for a lot of people. Which I'm not making the argument that that's good, bad, or indifferent. I have a personal opinion about it, but I don't feel the need to get into it. My point is that is how people think. Yeah. And it's probably unfortunate, but moving on. It's not going to hold week to week. It may be the number one movie of the weekend, or maybe it's Black Panther. It'll be between those two. And then it definitely won't be The Fabelmans. And then we move on to December 2nd. I don't know. What do you think about Violent Night being the number one movie of the weekend?
I'm rooting for it, but I think it probably falls. The R rating.
I wanted to as well, but if I had to put money on it, I'd say it wouldn't.
It's an R-rated movie, man. Like, that's just
right. It has no other competition though, and now we're 3-4 weeks away from Black Panther's debut.
Like I said, I'm rooting for it. It has a chance. It's an outside chance, but it has a chance.
Right. The 9th, we have Empire of Light, which no one's going to see. Father Stew, which no one's going to see, except if you go with your church group. And then
The Whale is getting a lot of critical acclaim.
Go see The Whale.
And then on December 16th, this is the middle of the week release, is Avatar: The Way of the Water. Quick word on that. Apparently, that's not tracking well. This is one of those things where Disney was like, we're all in on this. Here's all the chips. And they're already starting to, panic. this thing's not going to make any money.
Here's-
Well, we all saw the article that this movie has got to be like the third or fourth biggest money maker of all time to even see something
Yeah.
close to a profit.
This has got
gave
Batman v Superman problems.
They gave Cameron literally the keys to the kingdom.
Mhm.
And he's going to turn in a beautiful demo reel.
Here's the problem.
Is going to cost them a lot of money.
As a metaphor, it was like, here's, $200 million. Go make Birth of a Nation. Okay, but it's the year 2000. You can't, thank you. You can't do Birth of a Nation in 2000. Well, I'm gonna. No, that's essentially what happened here. I'm not really necessarily comparing Avatar to Birth of a Nation. What I'm saying is the world so significantly changed from when Avatar was released that it doesn't make any sense to do what they did here.
When your movie requires $1 billion to sniff profitability, like, bear in mind, to sniff profitability, you need $1 billion.
Right.
There's also the fact that it's 3 hours long, which we were talking earlier with the Black Panther, that was part of the problem.
It's not going to do this movie any favors.
And Cameron, like other filmmakers, has been digging himself into a hole criticizing comic book movies and popular movies in general.
So
there have been a lot of people who've been getting pissy at him because the man doesn't know how to shut up when he's criticizing other. Let me put it this way:
hang on, Alexis. Let me jump in here. There was a review we did earlier in the year, and I wish you had been on it for just this reason, because I pulled it for TikTok for this reason. Roland Emmerich, good old dumbass toaster oven Roland Emmerich, was like, Marvel movies stink, and here's why. And this was in a long line of famous directors going, Marvel movies stink. And me and Robert kind of looked at them like, never mind that they're saying it. Let's look at why they're saying it. And everyone's kind of doing the same thing. No one's listening to me. Here I am, famous director, Roland Emmerich, Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, what's his nuts that did Kimmy, Steven Soderbergh. All of these directors all putting out movies around the same time, and no one's paying any attention to them because no one gives a flying fuck unless you're a film person.
Well, bear in mind, it also doesn't help that Disney has so much market power that they use the MCU crap to deliberately and they lobby. I mean, people don't like to talk about this. Part of the reason Scorsese doesn't like them, this is behind the scenes stuff. Disney lobbied years ago to get one of Scorsese's movies excluded from China. Yeah. And promised the Chinese government this movie will die a slow death and no one will see it.
Look, if Vince McMahon can do it with the fucking NWA, I don't see why Disney can't.
I'm just saying, if you want to understand why these filmmakers view the oppressive, darn near monopsonistic setup that Disney has going, and are speaking out against it, this is why. Because it actively we can talk about the state of film all we want, and the negative consequences of the MCU, and there are plenty. There's good stuff too. This is not. I enjoy a lot of the MCU.
Hang on, where I was going with this for Alexis's benefit was, everybody was like, we're not getting any attention. So it's kind of, we brought this up with Solo too, where the stupid actor from Atlanta was asked a dumb question about Lando's fucking sexuality, and he was like, I don't know, he's pansexual, whatever. And suddenly that became all anyone cared about. That was the headline. Like, nothing else that guy said about Solo, about anything mattered. All anyone cared about was Lando was pansexual. This guy said so. Same thing here.
Hey, in theory,
all these famous directors have all of these things to say about film, but the one thing that got them attention, and everyone learns from each other, like, if this guy criticizes Marvel, he gets the negative attention that I want in social media. So, because reporters all are like lemmings and will just ask the same questions that the other guy asks, everyone asks a Marvel question because no one puts a lot of thought into this, and then every director says the same thing. Marvel movies suck, they're for children. Look at me, I'm trending on Twitter today.
Well, the other thing that, just to briefly bring up Tarantino again, and I think his most accurate criticism.
That's not to say that these guys have no merit in what they're saying, but they're all kind of copying each other. Yeah, like, you can be both doing it purposefully and honest.
Yeah, no, that's still very true. And again, like, you can't. If you're a director and you give an interview, like if you agree to be interviewed, you're gonna get asked about this. Like, again, like, the entire clickbait media cycle relies on this kind of crap, so it's feeding itself. But when Tarantino said, I could never do a Marvel movie, they don't let you have a personality. You're just a hired hand. Again, he's not wrong. There's a serious lack of. Hang on. No. Look, you tell me, Mark. You tell me if I'm wrong about this. You can name 3 personalities as far as films go in the entire MCU, and only 3. And I'm not even being overly reductive here.
James Gunn,
Jon Favreau,
and the other one is I just had it. Taika Waititi.
So, out of how many directors and how many movies?
You don't think the Russos though had an aesthetic?
No.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you about it. They made very big films, so maybe too
Didn't
hard
we
to tell.
discuss when we
Look,
reviewed
man,
Multiverse of Madness, Raimi's aesthetic working into the film?
God bless him. He made it. He forced his way into that. But look at how much effort he had to go through to get there, and look at how much the movie suffers from the elements of the tonal dissonance between what he wanted to do and what he was required to do.
Right.
Here, hang on. And here's my thing about the Russos when I said they don't have an aesthetic. Look at the other stuff they've done. There's a degree of personality to it that is utterly absent from their MCU work. And that's
Are you
fine.
actually going to admit that the Gray Man has personality?
It's shitty personality, but it has personality.
It
has drone shots. It has so many drone shots.
They fly over. All right, let's get through the end of this because we still have to talk about She Said. All right, so Avatar, it'll win its weekend, but it's going to fucking bomb just based on the numbers that you quoted.
Just based on the expectations you have put upon this and the
Right.
realities that it has to achieve, there's no way.
The fact is that anyone who was in love with Avatar when it came out does not care anymore about seeing it. The movie came out, 12 years ago?
I was going to say they're also 100 now.
Yeah.
So the Christmas movies are I Want to Dance with Somebody, which I'm sure people will see it, but I don't think it's going to do big business. And then the other one is Babylon, which is getting mixed reviews, and we're going to review it here.
God, why is that movie 3 hours?
Because everything is fucking 3 hours now. All right, hey, I want to. I want you to
understand, Mark. I'm going to, in vascular detail, destroy Babylon. I want you to understand this.
I fucking hope so. Now you've got me all hot and bothered. Speaking of hot and bothered, here's the news.
And now I'm up at News Flash.
I don't get my way anymore.
People hate overly feminist movies. There's your news flash.
I don't get my way anymore, and I'm a petulant child. So I got forced to go do the menu instead of what I wanted to talk about, which was She Said. And in
none
retrospect,
of us would have had a discussion with you about it. Like, you would have had me here as your pig hostage. And here's how this would have gone. It sucks. And then, because I can't just say it sucks and leave it at that, I would have enumerated the ways the director, the cinematographer, the writer, the actress, the actor, the lead actors, the actresses, sound design, the scoring, and the editing all failed miserably.
So, in retrospect, this is what I was getting at.
And
I'm glad we didn't because no one fucking
have a discussion.
Well, I mean, there's a chance people are interested in what we have to say about the menu. No one fucking saw She Said or knew it. Here's the thing. For such an Oscar baity movie, did anyone see any press about this? Did anyone see any marketing?
Not a one.
I didn't see any. All right,
handful of trailers on YouTube. I don't think
I got somebody nodding at me from across the room here, but I mean, I'm at the movies every week and I didn't see anything.
I saw no trailers ahead of movies. I saw nothing on Steam. I saw nothing on YouTube. I got nothing for this.
Robert's
Maybe that's
favorite
the
website.
algorithm just diving it, just being able to dial into me to a creepy degree. But
so I wanted to talk about this article really quick, and then we can move on to the critical review. But I think this warrants some degree of discussion. She's from Variety. Go ahead, Robert.
He's been wanting to do that all night.
I'm not going to say it. That outlet does not deserve my scorn. Even that's how low on the totem pole it is.
Terrific.
You just flip them off. That is enough scorn.
That's all they get. They get gestures.
She
if
said,
if you're on the only podcast, you don't even know what I did.
I swear to God, you're the only person who says nothing and keeps saying nothing so that I can't get anything accomplished.
But it's so fun.
She said bombs, motherfucker. Why aren't award season movies resonating with audiences? Because last year the fucking movies were like gay cowboys eating pudding, and people are fucking sick of it. Anyway, here's what
they weren't even good. They weren't even good.
The article says.
Did you just forget to pull a South Park reference?
I do that one all the time. I'm big on the gay cowboys eating pudding.
I have never heard
You've
you
never
say
heard
gay
me say that
cowboys
before?
eating
I say
pudding.
it constantly.
Pretty frequent. Anytime he
Okay, I do it all
references
the
an
time.
overly artistic film, he it's one of his go-tos.
Yep. On a recent episode of the Director's Video Archives podcast, the man who helped usher in the golden age of indie film with Pulp Fiction, and Kevin Smith, declared this to be the worst era in
piss
Hollywood history. Matched only by other such nadirs as the 1950s and the 1980s. Oh, fuck you, pal.
No, he's not wrong. Okay, seriously.
Oh my God,
Mark.
the 80s produced so many like fucking
Stop,
classics that we're now stuck with.
Mark, why
Stop.
don't you just pull the article up onto the full screen, because Robert's going to continuously interrupt you.
Fair.
So yeah, I can't even keep track of what you're saying anymore because I keep losing place with what you're talking about.
Okay, hang on, Mark. Look, there's a lot of movies that came out of the age that I enjoy, deeply enjoy.
I think what you cut me off before I said was the 80s created a lot of IP that's still with us. That has value. That you can't run away from.
Look, so your argument is the 80s contribution to ongoing cinema was much like the 80s itself, nothing but purely greed.
Yes.
That's all. Like, you can't name me a classic, artistically relevant movie from the 80s.
I like The Money Pit. I like The Money Pit.
Again, that's your response to that, so piss off. All you're doing is point.
All right, moving on. The good thing about being in a bad era of Hollywood cinema that don't conform are the ones that stand out from the pack. And that may be the case. The problem is that this crop of nonconformists may no longer have a commercial reason for existing, at least as theatrical.
Okay. Hang on. Author of this particular piece. She Said is not a nonconformist film in any way, and the fact that your entire premise is so deeply flawed might be why you're still writing for crap like no. Tarantino's point about nonconformity being able to stand out is well taken. If you then try to extrapolate towards, well, She Said, which is about as generic a tell-all dramatization as you can possibly find, is somehow nonconformist, this movie just treads the path that Spotlight walked, which was well worn even then. This is not a nonconformist movie. Your entire premise is flawed.
All right, take She Said. A sternly made look at the pair of crusading New York Times journalists who helped expose Harvey Weinstein's decades of sexual harassment and assault. The film earned strong reviews and awards buzz, but the Universal Pictures bombed last weekend, opening to dismal $2.2 million from 2022 theaters. This ranks as one of the worst results for a major studio release in history. That's why we're talking about it. Just as an aside, I saw it Thursday with my wife, and I have to say, like, it's a bit sleepy. It's very slow. And it's, if you're into like procedurals in terms of investigative journalism and you are particularly moved by the Me Too movement, I think there's something for you here.
Just rewatch Spotlight.
You know, and the other lady who's in the movie, Zoe something or other. I think they did a fairly decent job of trying to shoulder the movie as best they could. The problem is, and this is, and we're going to get to it momentarily. One, when we were talking about it amongst our podcast friends, the consensus among a lot of the guys is, have we not beat this to death? And this goes to lag. And I want to make a point of saying this because people act like films are like apples and you just pluck them off the fucking tree. Like, no, this shit takes time. So this thing gets budgeted and greenlit and shot and then edited and then released. That could take years. Could take a year or two.
It does.
So by the time it finally reaches theaters, the world in which it was greenlit may have changed significantly by the time it hits the theaters to where your audience is now gone. Your audience has now moved on from this particular topic. You assume here's the thing, it's not an unheard of thing and it's not an unreasonable point to make that people are still going to care about sexual harassment in 2 years. That they don't speaks to our fucking culture.
Oh, stop that.
I'm sorry. Proof is in the fucking pudding. Like, it's like
no.
Like this fucking collective, like, whoops, my bad. And then it's like turn the page. It's like, we'll just go back to normal now. It's fine.
You are conflating two very different things.
Go ahead.
You are unfairly conflating one's desire for entertainment with how one lives one's life.
Mm-hmm. But I think the point that
Because
was
if those
made
two
in
were-
the,
hang on.
hang on, the point
If
that was made
those
in a
were
group chat, which I think is
conflated, do you-
shared by a lot of people, is that people
ahead.
know this exists out there and they don't want to see it in their entertainment.
They don't want to see they don't want to be entertained about it. If you use sexual harassment as part of your story, people will go along for the ride. If your entire story is, hey, remember Harvey Weinstein? No, we don't like to forget the troglodyte. Let him die miserable and alone in prison.
So let's give Alexis, who is currently standing between two angry white men yelling about sexual harassment, and get her take on so far what this article is saying and the fact that it bombed, and just, what are some of your thoughts, Alexis?
I was about to say, I was like, why did I stay on? You two seem to be I seem to have this well in
I don't
hand.
I don't know why you attached yourself to our little date here, but you're here, so please be a part of the
I asked
conversation.
if you wanted me to stay. You said you wanted me here.
Go on.
Sorry, you're the boss. I do what you want, okay?
I would like you to answer my question. That's what I would like.
All right. Firstly, I'm just going to say I think this movie would have done a lot better if they just released it on Netflix.
Fair.
Would have generated a lot more buzz and a lot more traffic, I would guarantee.
I agree.
That.
Mark, I believe I can't remember which one of you said it, but when he said something to the effect of people don't want to see movies about things that are still going on or they're that recent.
I think the way I phrased this when I said this initially was people are very unlikely at this point to go see movies about newsworthy events that they actually lived through.
Okay, I disagree with that. But I do think that people are not interested in paying money for a ticket to go see a movie about something that is still very relevant and we're still dealing with the fallout and the repercussions from it. It'd be like going to see a movie about the January 6th insurrection or the start of COVID.
Both of which, are coming in 2024 and 2025, respectively.
Of course. There is an audience for recent history, but I don't think that audience is going to pay movie tickets. I think this is the kind of thing that would be better on streaming services. I think it would have been a lot better if they had done it like that. I mean, I'm just going to say this. I knew this movie was going to get a lot of award buzz, and I'm sure if I actually sat down and watched it, I'm sure I would say it hits all the points of a good movie. But it's not one that I really am dying to see. And part of that is that's not really my cup of tea. I don't like movies like this that often. I know they're good, but that's not, it's like, I've got a night off. What movie do we want to see? Oh, let's go watch a movie about the Weinstein drama. It's like the crap that I've been hearing about for the last 5 years. No, I want to go watch shit get blown up.
So I want to read this paragraph here. Privately, studio executives point to a number of culprits. They say this year's awards films are too arty.
Probably true.
Too depressing.
That was last year.
Too lacking in A-list talent to convince crowds to show up.
Okay, you people, this is to the studio executives, okay? You people have gone out of your way to kill the movie star as an entity, and now you're bitching that you can't get people to go see movies because there are no movie stars.
And they note that there have been success stories earlier in the year, notably Elvis, which was aimed at adults and earned an impressive $286 million globally. Everything Everywhere All at Once, a multiverse head trip that was racked up $103 million worldwide, while being perceived as artistically bold. But those films didn't have to compete with the glut of other prestige fare, which could be further fracturing an already shrinking audience base, one that may be very wary of hitting up cinemas during COVID. This is all stuff we've said before.
Okay, and also, can we stop with the people are wary of COVID thing? Can we just stop with this?
I'm actually going to agree with Robert on this one. I know that we're not totally out of the plague yet.
Look, it's endemic. There is no getting rid of it.
But the fact is that the people who go to the movies nowadays are not scared of the plague anymore.
Here's what I'm going to say. Alexis's point about the end of the article, and I closed the thing, but basically the article's conclusion was if you can't get people to go to the movies to pay for this stuff, they're just not going to put it in theaters anymore. When you look at the Best Picture nominations from last year, there was Gay Cowboys Eating Pudding and a whole bunch, and a lot of this stuff was on streamers. There was the deaf movie. There was the one with the deaf
one last year.
I was
Year
like,
of the Dog.
The Power
Coda.
of the Dog, which was Netflix. You have the one deaf movie.
Coda, that was
Plus.
Apple TV.
Right.
Okay. Isn't
Yeah,
that
I
what
think
one?
they said majority of them were actually released on streaming as opposed
Right.
to released straight to theaters.
It really
And the
does
great
go to, and this is
divide
my
continues to grow.
well. I here's the thing. Going all the way back to the beginning of this conversation from like an hour ago. I think studio executives now are looking at there's a mountain of evidence. I mean, if our little stupid podcast has been able to track the downfall of the mid-tier movie, the prestige movie, anything that isn't an event film, they have to. I mean, even a blind man has to see that they have to make some changes. Like, the next time She Said gets greenlit, it's not going into the theaters. It's going to a streamer.
Like, they can't be that insulated. Their echo chamber can't be that narrow and that loud. There's just no way. Like, you have to deal with reality at some point.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. She Said is not a movie I would pay a ticket for. It's a kind of movie that if I had an afternoon off and I'm just bumming around the house in my PJs, I might put on it while I'm just relaxing with a cup of tea. It's not theater movie. Right. And that's the thing, is that we have to realize that we have entered a new generation of marketing movies where you have to say, is this a movie that would be marketed or that we should market to theaters? Is this a movie that we should market to streaming?
Here's the theater crowd. Here's how you know if your movie is probably going to get a wide release. Those movies are made for 16-year-olds in China. And that might sound overly simplistic and a little bit bleak, but that's reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with movies that are released direct to streaming. We have gotten some amazing A-list material released to streaming. Some of the best movies we've gotten in recent years were released straight to streaming.
Just thinking about our September. Prey, The Gray Man, Pinocchio.
Pinocchio's getting stellar reviews so far. I'm looking. Is that Mark doing that on our schedule, right?
He's the other one.
Disney's Pinocchio.
Oh, God, that.
Look, they're not all winners. They're not all winners when they're released in the theater either. And look, Gray Man sucked.
Disney's Pinocchio sucked.
Disney's Pinocchio sucked. Prey had a metric ton of issues that people were too afraid to acknowledge.
Mm-hmm. Hellraiser. Anyway, all right.
Had its ups and downs.
I would say Hellraiser had more ups than downs.
Let's go ahead and do the critical. Whoops, I've forgotten how to podcast. Daddy, remember those days? Remember that, Robert? Daddy, I've forgotten how to podcast. I've been listening to some of our old shows where Ronnie and Jesse would suddenly decided that my kids were suddenly British.
Huh. That was.
Remember when we used to have fun?
Remember?
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right, the critics loved it. The audience was like, yeah, it's fine. 90% versus 78%.
That's about right.
Well, its social commentary relies on basic ingredients. The menu serves up black comedy with plenty of flavor. I fucking hate the people who write on this site. I really
I was going to say that, okay, I thought that...
All the food puns, they're all coming.
The tick bird. Prepare for the tick bird reviews, gentlemen. Prepare for all the tick birds.
I'll go get my shotgun.
Rendy Jones of Rendy Reviews. Bolstered by Seth Reiss and Will Tracy's engrossingly clever script, Mark Mylod's The Menu is an intense game of wit bursting with flavor that thrills, delights, and excites.
Okay, that's a bit much. I liked the movie, but that's a bit much.
Again, tick.
Yep, here we go. Andy Paviar of Nobody's Reading This But Me. First of all, fuck your website and you. I'm just so sick of this. I really am. I if it wasn't for the fact that you actually have to have like readership and clicks and everything, I would like. Do you remember the South Park episode where they were trying to like come up with the weirdest fucking title as an internet address, and it was just like trans rhinoceroses watching porno or some shit.com.
Clownfart at penis.net.
Yeah, exactly. Like I swear to God, that's what I would come up with. Just seriously. Just fuck you. Nobody's reading this but me.
Seriously, what does it take for us to get on Rotten Tomatoes if half these
bigger audience
hacks?
Yeah. Apparently we have to,
an actual audience.
An actual, yeah.
No cow is so much, guys.
Hey, we all try.
No cow is sacred. when fine dining takes a nosedive.
How is that a sentence?
How is that a review?
There's a reason nobody's reading this but you self-masturbatory jack.
I seriously do not get. I mean, are you trying to sound like Confucius?
If he had put Confucius at the beginning of it, I wouldn't have read it. I'd have accepted that. Jeff Mitchell of Art House Filmwire. That's just words. It's just words in a row. The menu is a smorgasbord of surprises. Chances are you'll gladly pick up this cinematic check and add a generous tip to boot.
You could not possibly have stretched that metaphor any further.
Gentlemen, if I may borrow a moment from our previous contributor, Dorian Price.
Just gouts of blood.
I wonder if our friend reviewed this, if this was too much movie for him.
Okay, there's a negative review. Please tell me. It's like I can't take another Tick Bird review. Let's hear some actual criticism.
Frank Switek of One Guy's Opinion.
Well,
Just
that's
a contributor to One Guy's Opinion.
A black comedy that skewers the capitalist class divide through the prism of pretentious haute cuisine has some succulent ingredients. But in the end, like so many haute cuisine you're not allowed to use haute cuisine in the same fucking clip. God damn it.
Don't even knows what haute cuisine is.
Can't use it twice.
Yes, you can't use it twice. It leaves you hungry for something more substantial. Fuck you in your asshole. Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. I thought reading something like this would actually give us a break for the puns. It got worse.
Can I also just say that the notion that the class divide is a capitalistic construct is very just successful propaganda by all the ridiculous communists. Like, class divide exists in every economic system. You're never going to get rid of it. Sorry.
Okay, I just saw 3 more quotes there that have the phrase haute cuisine. Every single one of them that use that phrase deserves to die the s'mores death from the movie.
Do these people all just like share a Discord or something where they all come up with the one phrase we're going to use? Like, what the hell?
Okay, I've worked with fashion and designers and artists, and it kills me whenever they talk about haute couture. It's just like, do you even know what that word means? Just, again, these people make me sick.
Anthony Morris of It's Better in the Dark. Is it, Anthony? Is it?
Well,
is it better in the dark, you fucking asshole?
I imagine I imagine that is his area of expertise.
So I have people currently staying with us. They're currently to my right. They're going to hear me say this to them right now. They don't know, I think, that we do this. And so they're just wondering, what the fuck is he yelling about? I'm yelling at this shit right here. It's fucking terrible. These are professional reviewers. It's
in
awful.
theory.
These are reviewers who get more views than we do, and it's not fair.
Look, I wouldn't mind it if it was just like the rags and the papers and whatnot, but I mean, like, it's Better in the Dark. Like, you know, Better in the Dark .xxx, because I'm guaranteeing that's a porn site.
Seriously, if any guy says to me it's better in the dark, he needs to be kicked out of the house.
I agreed. This is a full-bodied swipe at the foodie culture from top to bottom. If you're worried you might miss the joke, don't worry. Chances are you know more about food than you think. Not helpful. Not in any way, shape, or form.
Profoundly unhelpful. What?
Profoundly confusing.
Somebody curb stomp that guy.
Speaking of people needing a curb stomp, Pat Mullen, not that Pat Mullen. Shut up, Alexis. of that shelf.
Oh, that shelf.
Damn you, Mark.
Not the other shelf, but that shelf.
That shelf in particular.
As opposed to the other shelf.
Not that shelf over there. This shelf over here.
Okay. That shelf over there.
The menu has all the right ingredients for a cutting black comedy. It is deliciously funny. Eat the Rich cinema.
Okay, how in the world do you arrive at Eat the Rich coming out of this?
Because he's trying to capitalize on a hashtag.
It's a stupid hashtag. None of you people actually have the balls to go through with cannibalism. You're soft.
Secondly, it's not Eat the Rich, it's Eat the Rude. For God's sakes, did Hannibal Lecter teach you nothing?
No, these people all took the wrong message.
Jonathan W. Hickman of the Union Times Herald. Hey, a newspaper. Not myfuckingblog.asshole.com.
The modern you have to make that your personal blog if it's not taken now. You realize this.
Right. The modern foodie take on the well-traveled, the most dangerous game narrative manages to skirt the formula while touching on impactful themes.
This had nothing to do with the most dangerous game whatsoever. He wasn't killing and eating them at the end. It wasn't a whoever survives to the end kind of a thing.
You have wildly misinterpreted the most dangerous game, which is not actually a complicated story. So good on you.
All right, I'm going to read these back to back because I'm not entirely sure which one I hate more.
Okay. You know
Adam,
what? Usually it's me that you can see the tumor growing. This time it's you.
Yeah. Adam Olinger of Adam Does Movies from YouTube and James Vernier of the Boston Herald. The first asshole. I've had better meals. Have you, Jay? But the menu still provides plenty of great performances, an intriguing premise, and some beautiful food porn. Plus, we critics get to butcher food puns in our reviews. Fuck you, which is always a welcome
seriously,
treat.
Can I go get the kitchen knife and just cut my throat?
I mean, you can, but you'll get us demonetized. And then James Vernier of the Boston Herald. Send this menu back to the kitchen. Please be dragged from a truck.
I just want to.
How many?
It's like I think all three of us just want to flip every single. Just like this is our review.
I just would like to say, Mark,
Sir,
for how many years did you ask me not to wish harm and death on people? Just for the record, for a lot of years, you said don't wish someone would get hit by a bus. Don't encourage people to strike other people with fit. Like you for years said. To me,
when I say drag from a truck, I mean metaphorically.
Hang on. No, we both know you mean literally. Once again, I would like to welcome you to where I was when I was ahead of the curve.
You're so smart. You're the smartest podcaster in the room there, my love.
That is absolutely not true, and you know it. But sometimes these trends are easy to see coming.
Speaking of who you see coming, Anne Brody of What She Said. Savagely, satirical of wealthy, submissive diners who respond to cruelty like frightened bird.
I can't tell if he's breaking up or if he's just dumbfounded by how stupid that review is.
No, that was an internet issue. Hey, Jeff. Ooh, Jeff's got some balls on him this week.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Harris, a 401 Mania, friend of the show. Friend.
For the moment. Let's see how this goes.
As a cinematic experience, the menu is akin to what Hawthorne passes off as grand cuisine and high-level gastronomy. It looks impressive, but tastes dull. I mean, I get that.
I understand his perspective. Again, I disagree with it. Look, I read Jeff's reviews as a general rule because even when I disagree with him, I tend to understand his logic and appreciate his perspective.
I'm sorry, I just saw Kurt Loder up there. How is that man still alive?
Oh, you've been doing this with me for how many years? You just now
no.
He does
No. She means like, how has someone not killed him yet?
Okay.
Pretty much.
And the answer is, I assume he pays well for protection.
How does he have enough money to do that?
I don't know.
All right, we'll do one more of these, and then I'm gonna take drugs and see if I wake up in the morning. Let's
hope.
Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal, former newspaper, top critic. The dish being served here is perhaps too spicy for most. Fuck off. If you like your comedy as black as Squid Ink, fuck off. However, there was a lot to savor on this menu. Say it with me, everybody.
Fuck off.
God damn.
You know, if you left with one, like all you need is the black as Squid Ink. That's it. You get the one. You get one, people. One. And even then, I would actually argue this isn't the darkest. This comedy is not quite as dark as Squid Ink, which is quite dark when you use it in cooking. Like that's so black it almost has to sign you almost have to sign a waiver to use it. It's showing that you are not what's his face, that pretentious
Anish
asshole.
Kapoor.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, damn it, if he says the joke before I do, I'm gonna be really pissed.
All right. Next weekend we got Strange World. We'll have Zachary Strobel back, who's he's joined the cult. He's now a part of the family.
He is caught in the orbit of the black hole.
Alexis will be here. Robert will be here. So
because nothing animated gets talked about without me.
That is part of your contract.
And then the week after that is
and I have to talk girly shit.
The next part of it is Violent Night, which will be Alexis, myself, Robert.
Is Jason on that one?
Not at the moment. Unless he puts himself on. Though he might be mad at me now because I didn't agree with him. Now,
It
Monday
just
the
seems like the kind of movie he would want to review. So
Monday the 12th, we are, instead of Tuesday, I'll be at a concert on Tuesday. The 13th, I'll be at Ginger and POD. But so we're going to do DMU Hollywood, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and that'll be again Alexis, myself, and Robert on Monday, December 12th. And then right before Christmas, another Wednesday edition of DMU Hollywood, because I can't commit to doing anything on Tuesday. I might be getting tattoos with my wife. So we're going to do Avatar, The Way to Succeed and The Way to Suck Eggs on December 21st. And that'll be myself, Robert, and David Wright. You're not joining us for that one, huh?
How did we have a full review where you quote South Park, The Simpsons, and Ren and Stimpy? All in one go.
That I got from a Ministry album. The way Psalm 69, The Way to Succeed and The Way to Suck Eggs.
Yeah, that reference is way older than Ren and Stimpy, but
yeah.
Okay, sorry. All I could think was the Happy
Joy song. It teaches you to be happy, like he teaches your grandmother to suck eggs.
Yeah, sorry. That's the first time I ever heard that phrase.
All right, and then we will end the year with Babylon, and that'll be myself.
We'll end a lot of things with Babylon.
Probably Robert's life or
that'll be just me.
Sanity.
That'll be just be me and Robert gently stroking each other off. That'll be great. Just the way this show was intended.
It will be none of those things.
It'll be all of those things. Speaking of all of the...
Might be me requesting a full-blown immolation of Margot Robbie, though.
Leave her alone. Stop pushing death on that poor woman.
No.
All right. As far as what's going on this week and next week, we kick things off with Jesse had a review of a Garbage Pail Kid comic, for sure. Alexis and Zachary reviewed The Wonderful Seasons of Mickey Mouse. We re-aired our review of Moana. Tomorrow. We've got my son and I are going to do a commentary track for Paul Blart Mall Cop because he saw the trailer for it and thought that was hilarious and thought, this seems fine for Thanksgiving.
I'm sure he's going to have a blast.
On the 25th, good old Black Friday. Speaking of Black Friday, we're going to re-air the Everyone Loves a Bad Guy for The Wizard of Oz, a Thanksgiving tradition. On the 26th, while I'm going to be watching Survivor Series with all the people, we're going to re-air one of our turkey shows, Anthrax, Stomp 442. One of my friends had the audacity to say, Stomp 442 wasn't a bad album. I threw him out of my house, and I kicked him in his ass. And then...
Hopefully in the reverse order. You have to kick him before you throw him out, because...
Yeah, that album is awful. Speaking of which...
You would rather listen to Volbeat than that.
I like Volbeat. On the 27th is one of those shows that Jesse and Robert did without me on a Black Friday in years past. They reviewed Scar Symmetry, The Singularity, Phase 1, Neo-Humanity. And then we kick things off Monday with some new live content. It'll be the History of Boxing podcast is back. We're done with the long-term project. We are now just going to do this episodically. And we're kicking things off with a part of the boxing sport that is near and dear to my heart, punching in the nuts. Yes. I love a good shot in the dick.
I couldn't remember if it was that or Butterbean for your first episode. So.
There's nothing like professional heavyweight championship athletes punching each other in the dick repeatedly. So, what better way to examine the art?
Mark has an annual pass to Dick Kick City.
Mark's favorite film is Old Man Getting Hit in the Groin by Football.
So, what better fights to examine to really look at the art of dick punching than Riddick Bowe versus Andrew Gallardo 1 and 2? And that'll kick off the second version of the History of Boxing podcast. The aforementioned Strange World, and then we're re-airing our Alexander Usyk versus Chaz Witherspoon alternative commentary. What a fucking joke that was! And then in the evening time, myself and the two Canadians will be reviewing The Crown season 5, assuming I get it watched in time. And that is all for me. Thanks. I'm driving. Alexis, Hejna, take me home, baby doll.
All right. For the record, I got to pick a date soon for us to put the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special on, because we're going to have to talk about that.
Who's we, sister?
I meant we as in the network.
Oh, okay. Like it's a fucking
I'm not dragging you on. Hey, David, Andrew, Zach, Gunner, come to my aid.
Get one of you nerds to do that. I'm too good for fucking Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas specials.
Yeah, sure, mister. I'm going to listen to another Anthrax album.
I'm here to talk She Said, because I'm hoity.
All right. So
Sure
yes.
okay.
So yes, I got to pick a date that we've got open on the schedule, and I will I will light the nerd signal, and they will come.
He certainly will, Ollie. Hey, speaking of nerds that haven't come yet, anyone What? Anyone answer the call for
It's
Wednesday?
just how quickly you said that. Anyone answer the call? What?
For Wednesday.
No, I put that thing out and you shared it on 1 million pages. Nothing for Wednesday, nothing for Cuphead. I don't know where the freaking Addams Family fans have
Are
disappeared.
you actually watching that, Robert? Are you watching Wednesday?
No.
Okay, so what were you putting in the group chat then about it?
I tried and I struggled and I stopped
Okay.
because at this point I don't watch stuff I don't want to watch.
Right.
Unless
I
you
set
make
you.
me.
I set you free. No.
Yeah.
I will bound you in chains and make you do reffing. But other than that, yes, I set you free.
No. Look, you and I both know how this works, but I've just reached a point where I'm not going to suffer through something I don't if I'm not enjoying it. And
Right.
Or if you're not contractually obligated to do it for the network.
Correct.
Well, that's the whole point. He's saying is I don't really do that to people anymore. Not to myself, at least.
And look, I can understand why people might enjoy it. It might have gotten better after the first episode. I couldn't tell you. I was struggling with Luis Guzman as Gomez. I don't like Fred Armisen at all. So I just kind of wound up bowing out of that one. And, look, to those who do watch and do enjoy, Godspeed, party on. I get it. Just, I didn't. And
Right.
I'm not
So if
going
you're
to hate watch it.
All right, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I don't know about Mark and Robert, but Alexis seems nice, and I like the Addams Family. If you're watching Wednesday, jump on with Alexis. She's a nice gal. She'll have a very nice conversation with you. She won't be like me or Robert and tell you why all your opinions are stupid and make you cry.
I haven't made someone cry in a long time, and you
not on camera.
Who did I make cry?
Somebody cry.
Okay, your son doesn't count.
Oh my god. Finish your plugs.
Okay, we will also be reviewing Andor now that the season has wrapped up and I can finally binge that whole thing. So when I am not, flogging myself for Mark's benefit, you can find my company, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets.
Why don't I ever
family
get video of this sort of thing?
Because you don't pay.
Or we'll talk later about the Radulich and Broadcasting OnlyFans.
Robert, you beat me to it. That was exactly what I was going to say.
It'll be what. Look, that'll be one of the things we sell on the OnlyFans.
Okay, so we got Jason doing shirtless man stuff. There's whatever nonsense fuckery I'm doing on an OnlyFans. Robert's going to be doing dick reviews, and then
I'm not
we'll
doing
have
that.
And I will be beating myself shitless.
Yeah, and then there'll be just Alexis flogging herself in the fucking corner. This is great.
And look,
hey Kelsey, I need you
hang
to
on.
make me an OnlyFans for the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
And
we've got content ready to go here.
What actually brings in the money is everyone shares feed of their significant other. Feed pics over their way.
I've already talked to my webmaster. She's good to go.
All right.
I can't make. That's the last time I can make that joke. Because if I do it again, I think you'll actually go through with it.
Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Etsy and Amazon. Everything is 20% off for Black Friday. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There. I had to get it out before you two interrupted me again.
Okay, you good now? Go ahead, Robert.
Oh, okay. You're lagging pretty hard at the moment, Mark. Just for the record.
Okay. Yep. Go do your thing.
All right. Speaking of things that I do that have sucked the joy out of my life, I cover professional wrestling a few nights a week. Over at 411mania.com, AW's Dark Elevation on Monday, MLW on Thursday, WWE SmackDown on Friday. The MLW one for Thursday is set and ready to go. The WWE event this week is their pre-recorded tribute to the troops, I believe. So I will be covering that when it airs. That'll be a show, I guess. And there is no UFC event this week. But last week I covered the event that lost its main event during the broadcast. Because poor Derek Lewis had some kind of stomach illness, then he couldn't fight. So your main event became like instantly the worst main event in UFC history when Iwan Kutalaba fought Kennedy and Nzechukwu. So
God bless you.
He's Nigerian, you racist.
I want that on my tombstone. He's Nigerian, you racist.
That's one hell
Did I
of
tell
an
you Kelsey
epitaph.
refers to me now as colonizer? I'm going to get that tattooed across my pecs.
Oh, for God's sake, Mark.
You know what? Do it.
I'm texting Dorian. You got out right at the perfect moment. You saved yourself.
So you can find me doing all of that. I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which apparently had some audio issues the last few weeks that I only found out about recently. For some reason, my recording setup for that started defaulting to my webcam microphone / speaker instead of the one here on my headset. And that one is just powerful enough and broad enough to pick up all the ambient sounds going on around me, including the aquarium at the back of the room. So
you have an aquarium?
It's
This is the dawning of the age of aquarium. The age of aquarium.
So you've just had this lovely ambient aquarium water sound in the back of the last several episodes. Because I didn't know that default had changed, and it was also a royal pain to change back. So that'll be hopefully fixed going forward. So you can, if you're interested in the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts, the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast is what I host. I record that Sunday evenings. So be on the lookout for that. Again, there's no UFC event this Saturday, but this coming podcast episode, we will preview Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin.
Wonderboy! What?
If he didn't walk out to that song, I would have to throat punch you, just for the record. He'll be taking on Kevin Holland, so I'll preview that whole card. It's in Orlando, so they actually had to put effort into the event. So that's what you've got for me. I will be back here when we review whatever we're reviewing next week. Strange World.
All right, folks. Thank you for... You know what I like about this show and the shows recently? Tuesdays has become like a date
like
night.
Jazz, man.
Well, Tuesdays has become like a date night for Melissa, and sometimes she will come home at 11:30 because it's a school night and I put her on a curfew. But there's no school this week, so she can be out like whatever. So I did the show and I'm like, I don't have to rush to the end of this now. We can just fucking talk. We can do another 30 minutes. You just talk about whatever.
You kept us here long enough when we had to discuss Black Panther.
There was a lot to unpack with that. All right, speaking of unpacking, be well, be safe, and behave.